They were a military couple on the rise.
She was a proud Navy wife.
He wanted to be an officer.
He rose up through the ranks and earned his commission.
It was one of the proudest moments I ever had.
But pride turns to horror when he's found dead under mysterious circumstances.
It was difficult for us to determine what led to his death.
He had a problem with alcohol.
And he was also suffering from depression.
We thought it could have been suicide.
Maybe he finally drank himself to death.
Or were other, more sinister forces at play?
Something ugly did happen here.
It was all a plot. It was all a scheme.
Y'all was planning to kill him.
The whole situation was shocking.
I felt like I was locked in a bad movie.
He didn't deserve to die like that. It was just an American tragedy.
February 12th, 2014, Orange Park, Florida. It's just past 8:30 a.m. when a 911 call breaks the silence of this quiet Jacksonville suburb.
111, state your emergency.
Hi. I'm here to pick up my husband. When I walked through, I tripped over his feet, and he's like covered under his clothes. He's not answering.
Okay, I'm going to get rescue on the line with us, okay? Stay on the line with me.
The caller is 44-year-old Yolinda Doss.
She appears to be shocked, distraught. She says that she opened the door to go and check on him, and she tripped over his body.
Did you say he's breathing or no?
I didn't. I can't get to touch him.
Okay. And is he breathing?
No.
Moments later, first responders arrive at the hotel room.
They were kind of like extended stay hotels, so a lot of people are living there long term.
Over here! Oh my God!
We had a victim in the room that was motionless, lying there.
He was laying on his stomach on the far side of the bed, in between the bed and the wall.
It's Yolinda's husband, 44-year-old Alfonso Doss, a 27-year veteran of the U.S. Navy.
Commander Doss was in good shape, as you would suspect being in the Navy.
There was nothing outwardly suggesting something had happened to him, but he was unresponsive.
And there's nothing they can do to save him.
I'm sorry, man.
For Mississippi native Alfonso Doss, nothing was more important than family.
He was a good person, and I was very proud to be his father.
He was kind of like my protector, you know what I mean? Like, almost like a hero in a sense. He was actually very loving. He had what I would describe as strong love.
They love their brother. They're crazy about him.
Alfonso was well known for his determination to succeed.
He didn't do many things halfway. He kind of went all the way in or didn't bother with it.
He played football and played quarterback, actually. And he was an honor student.
Alfonso had always strived for excellence, and he knew exactly what he wanted to do in life.
When he was in the 9th grade, he told me that he was going to go into the Navy, and he wanted to be a commander, actually.
As far back as I can remember, he always talked about Navy. It's like he never wavered. He was always the Navy from the very beginning. Like he wanted to serve.
With a dream in his sight, Alfonso knew just who he wanted by his side for it all. Fellow classmate Yolinda Hunter.
They met in the 1st grade, and they 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, all the way through high school together. They knew each other all their lives.
They became romantically involved with each other in high school.
And when graduation came, they knew they'd support each other no matter what.
You gonna be all right without me?
I think I can handle myself.
She wanted to go to school, and he wanted to join the Navy, and that was going to require some distance.
But you better not be one of those different girls in every port kind of sailors.
Me? She went off to college to Ross College.
Mr. Doss joined the Navy.
They supported each other in their dreams and made it work.
The couple spent 4 long years apart while Alfonso served his country. Finally, in 1991, after Yolinda received her degree and Alfonso returned from a tour overseas, the couple was reunited.
The wedding was a traditional Southern wedding. It was in a church, and they seemed happy, a good fit.
It wasn't long before Alfonso had another special lady in his life, a daughter named Brianna.
After she was born, he was very proud.
You think she's getting all this?
She's gonna need a jump start if she's gonna make it in Annapolis.
I remember him reaching out to my father and sending us pictures of whatnot, my father talking to him and being excited.
10 years later, in 2001, the Navy transferred Alfonso to Florida, where his family put down roots. Alfonso was well on his way to achieving his dream of becoming an officer.
He had to kind of make himself. He had to go and work hard to achieve what he got.
A lot of good things were going for him. He had a great track record.
He was highly decorated. He had a lot of meritorious awards.
Over the next decade, while Alfonso served his country, Yolinda focused on their family.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Navy wives oftentimes find themselves as the household manager simply because their husbands are off on deployment all the time.
He was gone for long stretches of time, and she remained with her daughter in Jacksonville.
You coming home tonight?
Later, but I'll be home.
Bye, baby.
With her daughter now a teenager, Yolinda took her management skills to the next level and started her own business.
She made T-shirts for sororities, accessories for sororities and fraternities.
Between Yolinda's business and Alfonso's Navy career, the family built a life anyone would envy.
They lived in a fairly upscale neighborhood.
Though for Alfonso, the crowning moment came in September of 2011, when he finally made commander.
He strived for it, and he got it, and I was really proud of him for doing that.
They really worked together to live the American dream.
But on the morning of February 12th, 2014, Yolinda and Alfonso's rise comes to a screeching halt.
Okay, my officer said that he's cold to the touch.
Police responded and found Alfonso dead in an extended stay hotel room.
When the original police officers get on scene, they begin to get basic information from Yolinda.
Can't believe he did it!
Can't believe he did what, man?
What they learn is that he was potentially an alcoholic and battling some mental health disorders.
Yolinda told police she thought Alfonso may have taken his own life.
All my love scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble. That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
According to a recent study by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, an average of 20 veterans die by suicide every day. To combat this growing problem, in 2018, the VA spent $12.2 million on suicide prevention programs and provided over 2.4 million same-day mental health appointments. Through hard work, sacrifice, and 27 years of service, 44-year-old Alfonso Doss had risen to the rank of commander in the United States Navy.
He wanted to be in the military, and not only be in the military, but excel in the military, and that he did.
But on the morning of February 12, 2014, Alfonso was found unresponsive in his hotel room.
His wife Yolinda actually found him, and when EMTs arrived, he was pronounced dead at the scene.
Yolinda was clearly devastated. This was a man she had loved her whole life.
As detectives arrive, Yolinda explains that while Alfonso's life seemed perfect on the outside, inside, he battled demons.
He might have committed suicide because he was going through depressions and stuff.
His life has just been such a mess lately.
According to Yolinda, it all started 18 months ago, not long after Alfonso made commander.
He was nearing retirement age, and it looked like he may not promote to the next rank in the Navy, and therefore that led to his drinking.
He was having difficulty with his Navy career because of his alcohol abuse problems.
He was arrested for DUI and been temporarily reassigned at NAS Jacksonville while he received counseling.
He was still in full active duty. However, the Navy had extended him what we call in the civilian world EAP, Employee Assistance Program, where they allow persons that have issues going on, be it mental, physical, or emotional, they can get help.
He was worried about getting out of the Navy with an honorable discharge. And he was going through stuff trying to make sure he could leave honorably.
Yolinda tells detectives that Alfonso's drinking hadn't just caused him problems at work.
She had stated that he was somewhat abusive verbally.
Sweetie, are you okay?
What do you think?
I think you're gonna be okay.
Do you know how hard I work for this? This house? And they think they're gonna take it away?
He was in a drunken rage, and just the emotional aspect of that, it was ramping up.
That was one of the biggest reasons they separated, and he began living in the hotel.
It was felt that it would be best that he moved out of the home and attend alcohol rehab.
Yolinda says she rented this hotel room for him until he could pull it together.
His Navy pay was going directly to Miss Doss, and so she kind of controlled the money.
She managed the bank accounts, and then she would give out money to him as needed.
Of course, Yolinda was certainly supportive of the alcohol abuse rehabilitation and continued to be as supportive as she could.
According to Yolinda, things had actually started to improve, especially after Alfonso got good news from the Navy.
Since he had been going through the treatment program, the Navy decided that he would receive an honorable discharge, which was scheduled to happen within days.
It really seemed like he was getting better.
But Yolinda says she had a bad feeling when she got a call from the rehab center Tuesday afternoon.
People had called and saying he hadn't shown up.
She said that she had been trying to reach him and hadn't been able to contact him. She left messages, but he didn't return her calls.
Yolinda says she was racked with worry by Wednesday morning, so she had gone to the hotel to check on her husband.
I just kept calling for him, and I was knocking, and he wouldn't answer the door. And
after getting no answer, Yolinda let herself in the hotel room.
She had a key since she was the one who had rented the room.
Alfonso? Alfonso! Alfonso!
They had been married 23 years at the time of Mr. Doss's death. She was deeply saddened.
Once we had a decent statement on scene from Yolinda Doss, she requested that she could go home.
She wants to get to their 16-year-old daughter and be the one to break the news to her daughter that her father is now deceased.
Yolinda also reaches out to Alfonso's family.
My phone rang, and she said, "Hell is dead." And I don't know how I felt, to be honest with you. I had never had that feeling before or since, and really never wanted again.
We were in total shock. Absolute shock.
Though as painful as the news is, it isn't entirely a surprise.
We knew he had some problems, and this was right on the heels of hearing about him reaching out to my father.
He called me on the phone. He said to me, "Dad, I'm sick. I've been sick, and I've been going through a lot." And then he started to tell me about the rehab he was going through, and he was getting help.
The idea that he would commit suicide soon after, he just got finished talking to my father. He's talking about retiring, things like that. It didn't make sense.
While the family grieves, detectives begin processing the scene, starting with Alfonso's body.
They couldn't make a determination of death at that particular time because there was nothing obvious that was standing out.
However, detectives do find evidence of Alfonso's struggle with alcoholism.
We found 2 empty rum bottles that were in the room.
Though other clues at the scene suggest there's more to this story than meets the eye.
All of the drawers were pulled out of the dresser, and all of the drawers were pulled out of the nightstands near the bed. Also, we noticed that there was a power cord for a laptop, but no noticeable laptop, and there was no cash in his wallet.
The first thought is, well, maybe somebody has gone into the room and committed a burglary.
There's just one problem with that theory.
There was no signs of forced entry. Commander Doss had to let the person into the room, or somehow the person conned their way into the room.
Canvassing the hotel, detectives find a maid who may provide their first lead in the case.
She had seen our victim with what she believed to be a prostitute about a month prior to this incident.
Could you describe her?
She was skinny. She had long hair.
Was there anything else?
As a matter of fact, there was a guy that was sitting in the parking lot. He would drop her off sometimes.
That piece of information from the housekeeper was vitally important.
Detectives wondered, could he have been the prostitute's protection in case something went wrong?
We knew there might be more to the story as far as who would have, had their hand in killing him.
All my love scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
But I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble. That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
It's been 24 hours since Commander Alfonso Doss was pronounced dead in his hotel room. While detectives haven't ruled out the idea of a suicide, they can't ignore the signs that there was someone else in the room on the night of his death.
The room looked ransacked. Drawers from both nightstands and the dresser were all pulled out.
Cleaning staff had seen the victim approximately a month prior to this incident with what she believed was a prostitute.
The hotel maid also mentioned the prostitute was always accompanied by a man, possibly her pimp.
Hoping to identify the pair, detectives pulled the hotel's security footage.
There was video surveillance from the hotel that covered the lobby and the entrance to the parking lot.
Reviewing the footage, detectives discovered that the alleged prostitute had been to the hotel on Monday night, less than 36 hours before Yolanda found Alfonso dead in his room.
However, there were no cameras covering Alfonso's room, so detectives had no idea if that was where they went.
When detectives receive the results of Alfonso's autopsy finding, the pair becomes an even greater priority.
He had a fractured hyoid bone in his throat, and basically that is very indicative of manual strangulation.
The autopsy report confirms their suspicions that this is a homicide.
Mr. Doss was in good shape, about 6 feet tall, and a Navy man, so very capable of defending himself.
He was attacked by somebody who was more powerful than him.
And right now, the only person on their radar who could have done that was the man that the hotel maid described waiting outside while a prostitute visited Commander Doss's room.
According to the report, Alfonso died on Monday the 10th, the same day hotel cameras caught the prostitute visiting the hotel.
They couldn't specify the exact time during that day, but they believed it was the 10th.
Detectives thought that Alfonso might have had a date with that prostitute, and if he had been drinking and became abusive, her handler might have intervened.
As police search for the prostitute and her associate, detectives bring in Yolanda to give her the news.
When the police got the autopsy report back, they make a decision to tell Yolanda how he died.
When we informed her that her husband was killed due to manual strangulation, her reaction was surprise.
In spite of the shocking news, detectives try to gain more insight into Alfonso's behavior in the days leading up to his death.
We're going to probably rehash a lot of the stuff we already talked about, okay? We're going to kind of talk to you about your relationship with your husband and what's been going on in the last year or so, was he bank account?
No, I mean, we had accounts together, but I eventually just put me on them because I did not want him to
go into the use my money.
She says that I gave him $500 not very long ago. I know he had money.
Did you ever know him to use prostitutes?
I just don't know.
Throughout their marriage, and I think at most of his deployments, there was always suspicions that he was carrying on affairs wherever he went.
Anything when he was deployed or stationed anything, anywhere, any reason for him to believe that you would cheat on him?
Now, I had male friends, I had female friends, but never have I. No.
She emphatically said, no, I would never cheat on him. We have a child together. I wouldn't do that.
She stated that she was faithful to Mr. Dawson and was trying to work the relationship out.
With no new leads from Yolinda, detectives decide to let the grieving widow go.
Well, if there's anything we can do for you, don't hesitate to give us a call.
Thank you.
Well,
The next day, detectives meet with Alfonso's father, who was still struggling to process the news of his son's death.
It's hard to explain. I just talked to him 3 weeks earlier, said how proud I was of him.
The news that Alfonso was murdered hits the family especially hard.
To find out that he would die this way, that was very shocking.
It was a devastating thing. It still is. You never think that this would happen. And the type person Al was, I mean, who would want to murder him?
When asked about Alfonso's relationship with Yolinda, his father says there was no real cause for concern, despite all the drama his son's drinking had caused.
He had moved into the hotel, and he was talking to me as if though he thought she and he could get back together at some point.
His family had no reason to believe Yolinda had anything to do with this.
However, Tom believes there is someone close to his daughter-in-law worth looking into.
He believed that it might be possible that Yolinda Dawson's father was involved.
Yolinda's dad had previously done time for attempted murder.
That was very interesting because your father has done the very thing that they were investigating.
Detective Monroe, he said, wow, basically, wow. You can't make this kind of stuff up.
All my love scattered everywhere.
When he looked at me, I just melted.
Dreams so sweet turned into a nightmare.
I didn't suspect that he was a straight-out killer demon. I knew I was in trouble. That's a hell of a price to pay. Just for one damn man.
"48 hours after Commander Alfonso Doss was found murdered in his hotel room, the entire city of Jacksonville is alerted of the news.
People were upset because it is a big military town. You see this military man, his photo plastered on TV and his dress glues there, and he's been killed in a hotel room. That upset the community a lot. They were outraged that he was dead.
As the community grieves, detectives zero in on a possible suspect, Alfonso's father-in-law.
Detectives have just learned Yolinda's father had been part of a murder plot almost 15 years earlier.
Yolinda Doss's father had been involved with a woman who was married and actually went into the hospital where this man was being treated for other injuries and attempted to put insulin into his IV.
Her father was convicted of attempted murder and was sentenced and served time for it.
Now detectives wonder, could Yolinda's father have struck again?
I thought he had killed my son for his daughter, or had it done. He's that kind of guy. Maybe he and some other person got together and killed my son.
To find out, detectives go to the source.
We spoke to him over the phone, and we got a little bit of basic information with regards to what vehicles he drives, what he does, where he lives.
Yolinda's father lived in Memphis, which is where he claimed he was at the time of Alfonso's murder.
Detectives aren't about to take his word for it, though. Instead, they pull his phone records.
We used cell phone records to help us find the location of where his phone was during this homicide.
But it's another dead end.
Based upon phone records, he was not in town during the time of this homicide.
With the alleged prostitute and her associate the only potential suspects remaining, detectives focus their efforts on identifying the pair.
We began going through Alfonso's cell phone records, looking for phone calls that he had made, text messages that he had received or sent.
And they found a woman that he had been in conversation with from time to time.
The woman is 31-year-old Ramona Sykes.
We identified that she had called his phone several times, seeking his death. And so, of course, having that information, we had to track her down and talk to her in person.
That day, detectives bring Ramona in for questioning.
Ms. Sykes, we have a few questions about Alfonso Doss.
Who?
She denied knowing Commander Doss, so they continue to talk to her and they press her.
Ms. Sykes, don't lie to us. We have your phone records.
Ramona Sykes was reluctant to speak with us because she was a little bit leery of police officers and detectives and had a past of, dealing with law enforcement.
Put on the spot by detectives, Ramona admits to knowing Alfonso, but says she had only met him once.
They just so happened to cross paths, and Doss saw her, flirted with her, and said maybe we should hang out sometime.
We met. We hit it off. He thought we should hang out. So he gave me his number. I called him a few times, left a few voicemails. I never heard anything back.
Ramona explained to us that they had the initial conversation about hanging out, and then they never actually met up.
Though that's what Ramona claims, detectives can't be sure.
Ramona didn't have an alibi for Monday night, so detectives were unable to rule her out at that point.
While keeping a close eye on Ramona, detectives returned to the crime scene.
We began to look for security cameras from any vantage point we could in that particular area.
The hotel's cameras only covered the lobby and the entrance to the parking lot.
Mr. Doss's hotel room faced Eldridge Avenue, which is a road just outside of the hotel. But what we found was that there was a security company across the street who had their video surveillance capabilities displayed on the front of their business, and that particular video camera faced directly at the victim's hotel room.
Detectives obtained the footage from Monday the 10th, the day they believe Alfonso was murdered.
We were able to find a pickup truck that pulls near the hotel room of the victim, and we can see two individuals exit the vehicle and walk over towards the victim's room.
The distance is too great to make out much detail.
You couldn't make out individual characteristics, but what stuck out to us about the two individuals is one appears to be much, much larger than the other one. And we can see that those two individuals used key cards and accessed that room.
About a half hour later, Commander Doss comes in.
You can see him on camera entering the hotel room, and then the door shuts behind him.
He goes into his room, and that's the last time they saw Commander Doss alive.
He had no idea he was walking into a trap.
Detectives are investigating the murder of U.S. Navy Commander Alfonso Doss. After reviewing neighboring surveillance videos, they have just discovered what appears to be footage of his killers entering his hotel room.
Looking at the surveillance video, they see this truck come up with two men inside, and now they want to know who these two men are.
The footage is too far away for detectives to be able to make a positive ID, but one of the suspects definitely stands out.
When we discovered these individuals on the video surveillance, one was much, much larger than the other one.
Detectives believe they were, without a doubt, looking at the man who had overpowered Alfonso and choked him to death.
But who is he? Hoping for some insight, detectives once again circle back to Alfonso's widow, Yolinda.
Can you give me any insight as to who, or anything, any hints, clues, anything you think could lead us in the right direction?
I can't imagine. No.
But just when it seems that Yolinda can offer no new information, she makes a shocking admission.
All of a sudden informed us that not only did she have a business partner, but that they were more than business partners and had a romantic relationship.
Yolinda explained that she didn't bring him up previously because the thought of him somehow being involved had never even crossed her mind.
Yolinda's partner is local security guard Anthony Washington.
Anthony Washington worked security at her daughter's school. That's how she met him.
Yolinda explains Anthony had started helping her out with her business recently.
He worked for you and Al, or how?
Well, technically, because the businesses were mine and Al's business, so yeah.
So he was kind of like an employee, or was he a partner? Or?
It depends on how you look at it. More or less an employee.
She had a lot of boxes for traveling to these trade shows. So I think that that's where Anthony Washington came in.
As her husband slipped deeper and deeper into alcoholism, Yolinda says that Anthony had stepped in to fill the void.
I think she welcomed the fact that someone was nice to her, and he was very nice to her, and he cared for her.
But now detectives wonder if Anthony had done more than just care for Yolinda.
The investigators pressed her and asked, would he want to harm Commander Doss?
Kind of like the bad boy type of thing, right?
No, he's a sweet guy, really sweet.
You say he's never in trouble or anything like that? Never been. What does, just out of curiosity, what's Anthony drive?
He's driving a rental.
What's it, what kind of?
Enterprise. His is a Dodge.
Still suspicious of Anthony, detectives don't reveal everything they know to Yolinda. And the next morning, they bring Anthony in for questioning.
When I met with Anthony Washington, he was very polite.
He wasn't like a vicious type person.
But physically, he is a perfect match for the man in the surveillance video.
Anthony Washington stood, I believe, 6'7" and weighed 365 pounds.
From what I understand, you and Yolinda are kind of a thing, aren't you?
Oh, I've been intimacy has been that long. Maybe it's not serious.
So it's not serious.
It's not a relationship. It's not like, you know, you my girlfriend, I'm your boyfriend, you can't see nobody.
He didn't refer to it as a love relationship. It was more of like a friends with benefits type of situation.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Most men, not all men, most men are jealous creatures. Did Al know about you guys, more or less? Or did...
Well, he never confronted me. He never, I mean, he always accused her but that was funny, only when he was drinking.
Anthony believed that he'd been abusive to Yolinda.
What kind of problems were they having?
Just his drinking, you know, it's abusive and it's all of that, you know, he can't control his anger. That's mainly it. The drinking started everything.
Mm-hmm.
He denies he would have anything to do with his death.
He also offers up an alibi. His friend, Ronnie Wilson.
He says that Ronnie Wilson is with him the majority of the day, that they went to the gym together, that they were at his parents' house together.
The next day, when detectives follow up with 32-year-old Ronnie Wilson, he confirms Anthony's story.
He explains to us, much like Anthony Washington, that they were together that day, that they went to the gym, that they were at Anthony Washington's parents' house, as well as later that evening, they went and shot pool.
You go back to the house, chill.
Whose house? Went back to Yolinda's? Or no, back to Anthony's?
Detectives suspected that there was something that both Anthony and Ronnie were leaving out.
They looked very much like the people on the video surveillance.
But when detectives asked Ronnie what kind of car he drove, he denied owning a car at all.
All but convinced Anthony and Ronnie are the two men in the surveillance video, detectives contact Anthony's parents about his alibi.
The day of the homicide, Anthony Washington had stated that he was at his parents' house, so we wanted to verify that with them. They didn't remember for sure.
However, that's not the only thing his parents tell detectives.
The family confirms that he does have a truck that he drives from time to time.
They on and off allowed Anthony Washington to use the pickup truck for hauling things for Yolinda's company. And in fact, when we reviewed the video surveillance, this description of this truck matched with the vehicle that we saw.
Detectives believe that they've found Alfonso's killers. They just needed to prove it.
Both of them claim that they were actually at a gym working out about the time the murder occurred.
Detectives pull the men's phone records to compare against their alibi.
So we were able to look at those records and establish that that really was not true.
Their phone records indicated that they were near the hotel.
Detectives decide it's time to apply a little pressure.
They go back to Anthony after they've looked into his phone records.
We watched surveillance video. All right, if you were the last people to see him on this earth, still alive, and you got a lot of explaining to do.
Once the questions start, it's clear he can't.
Anthony Washington's mannerisms were very nervous and sweating, dry mouth. We could tell that he was about ready to tell us the truth about what happened.
We're real close here, but there's still something left that you got to explain to me. All right, and you got to explain it to me.
That's where I know what I did.
Okay.
I didn't do anything. Just I was scared of living Jesus out of it.
There's just a lot of discrepancies that are coming up in their stories of where they're at and what's going on, and we need to figure out what Anthony Washington's involvement was with Yolanda Doss, because we were suspicious of Yolanda, and we wanted to know that she was potentially an individual that was involved in the homicide as well.
Put on the spot by detectives, Anthony Washington has just admitted to being at the hotel on the night of Alfonso Doss's murder.
After he decided that there was no more denying his involvement in this case, he said, all right, let me tell you what happened. And he begins to paint his side of coming to the hotel.
He said he went with Ronnie Wilson to the hotel room just to scare or to talk to Commander Doss.
When you guys had that scare tactic that you guys talked about, you and Ronnie probably discussed it a little bit. Can you tell me what went on in that conversation?
Trying to go in and scare this man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. There wasn't no plans of action. You know, go in and let him know what his options are.
And according to Anthony, it wasn't his idea to confront Alfonso.
And he admits that Commander Doss's wife, Yolanda, was the mastermind behind the whole thing.
Yolanda Doss was having a tumultuous relationship with Alfonso Doss. And Yolanda Doss would tell Anthony Washington that Alfonso Doss would drink a lot, and when he would drink, he'd make threats.
No. Sick of it.
Baby, what's wrong?
I cannot take this any longer. I cannot take this.
I know, baby. Look, I know.
I need you. I need you to do something about it.
Anthony Washington tells us that they came up with a plan to sneak into his hotel room.
I got you.
Anthony tells detectives that he recruited his friend, Ronnie Wilson, to help. And on the evening of February 10th, they drove to Alfonso's hotel in his father's truck.
They entered the hotel room with the key cards that Yolanda Doss had provided.
When Alfonso came in, some 30 minutes later, they caught him completely off guard.
The way he described it to the police was that Commander Doss just kind of lunged at him.
Anthony Washington says that Alfonso Doss goes to throw a punch or lunge at Anthony Washington, and that he actually catches him by his neck.
And I caught him in mid there. I mean, you shook my hand before.
Oh, yeah. Trust me, I know, man.
He claims that he was defending himself.
He described holding him up in the air by his neck, and he was a much bigger man than Alfonso Doss, and he picked him up in the air by the throat and then threw him on the ground.
For the whole time, you girding me. That was it. Just get the hell out of here, man. Let's go.
Okay, let me ask this. Why do you, did it cross your mind to call maybe for like rescue or something, or was y'all?
I figured he was drunk. I ain't even thinking nothing about it. And I definitely think that nothing we had, nothing we did had to do with this, because I knew he was dealing with, whatever he was dealing with.
Anthony Washington may have left, not knowing there was any problem with Alfonso Doss.
While that's what Anthony claims, it makes little difference to detectives.
Yolanda Doss, Anthony Washington, and Ronnie Wilson were arrested on second-degree murder charges.
News of Yolanda's arrest stuns Alfonso's family.
Yolanda was my daughter that I didn't have, She called me dad. And And I was just surprised and shocked and brokenhearted that she would kill my son.
I can't wrap my mind around what would cause you to sit down and plan someone's murder, your husband's murder, the father of your daughter.
After her arrest, detectives sit down with Yolinda for a final time. She admits to sending Anthony and his friend to her husband's room that night, but nothing else.
She asked Anthony Washington to intercede for her and talk to her husband about his behavior. And so when her husband was killed, that was totally unexpected to Mrs. Dawes.
Did you know that they were going to go there and kill your husband?
Detectives don't buy it for a minute.
You just can't look at us and tell us. You won't say that you sent them boys over there to kill your husband. I believe you did.
Why couldn't you just go and knock on the door and say, hey, you need to stay away from my girlfriend? They weren't there just to threaten him or scare him. They were there to kill him.
And detectives think they know why.
Here's another thing we haven't even touched on yet, all right? The life insurance policy.
As a Navy veteran, Alfonso was worth more to Yolinda dead than alive.
He has $1 million life insurance policy.
With Alfonso's discharge just weeks away, the clock was ticking.
Insurance was a very, very big motive. It was the reason we believe this murder took place.
In September of 2016, the trial begins for Anthony Washington.
Prosecutors tried Anthony first because the surveillance video combined with his confession gave them the strongest case.
He was convicted at trial of first-degree murder and burglary, and he was sentenced to life in prison.
I'm glad he got life without parole.
He deserves whatever he gets while he's in jail.
Ronnie Wilson, on the other hand, cuts a deal and pleads guilty to accessory after the fact.
He only served 4 years in prison and is currently out and on probation.
It's a bitter disappointment for Alfonso's family.
Ronnie Wilson should have done almost as much as Washington is doing.
With no evidence to support Yolinda's abuse claims against Alfonso, she sees the writing on the wall and follows Ronnie's lead.
Yolinda Dawes was allowed to plead to manslaughter and received 12 years in prison. Would I, as a prosecutor, have wished that she had gotten more time? Yes. But even though we believe that Yolinda Dawes was the mastermind behind this, we could not connect that she got Anthony Washington to go out there and kill Commander Dawes.
Despite their desire to see Yolinda punished, Alfonso's family didn't oppose the plea deal.
I didn't want my granddaughter to be without a mother. She was already without a father.
The death of the decorated Navy commander isn't just a loss for his family. It's also a loss for the entire nation.
Looking at what he did in his career and for someone decorated like himself to end that way, it's horrible.
I want the world to know that he was a great son, he was smart, he was handsome, he was funny, and I wish the whole world knew him.
I loved him dearly. He was my hero, a genuine hero. That's just who he was.
He was a rising star on the local music scene.
He was known throughout the community. The type of guy that men wanted to be and women wanted to be with.
But he was more than just a local celebrity.
He was raising his daughter on his own.
He was a good person, just doing right by the community and his family.
So when he's gunned down, shockwaves roll through the whole town.
911. Where? Police find him lifeless in her arms. Who would kill this man in cold blood?
Investigators struggle to find answers.
He was a pillar of the community.
They were starting out with no leads.
Until a trail of breadcrumbs points to a lethal conspiracy.
This appeared to be
Humans are curious creatures. They will take a life for the most absurd and petty reasons you can possibly imagine. But when a child strikes down the very mother who gave them life, who nurtured them, who handed them the world on a silver platter, you are no longer dealing with a human being. You are looking into the eyes of a monster. My. I tell you, I have seen the darkest corners of the human soul. But the sheer and calculated greed of this case still turns my stomach. It was February 4th, 1991, in the quiet and picturesque town of LaGrange, Georgia. Margaret Abernathy was 66 years old. She was a matriarch in the truest sense of the word. She built an empire from a local car dealership and real estate, yet her greatest treasure was always her family. She was the kind of woman who left buckets of fresh vegetables at her business for her neighbors to take. She loved her children with a fierce and unconditional grace. But unconditional love is a dangerous thing when it is bestowed upon a sociopath. Her daughter, Priscilla Matula, was a 41-year-old woman playing at being a businesswoman, failing miserably and patching her failures with lies. Margaret had financed her daughter entirely, pouring $130,000 into a dealership to ensure Priscilla had a secure future. Instead of working hard, Priscilla engaged in a fraudulent check kiting scheme, bouncing bad checks back and forth across town to the tune of $20,000 to $30,000 just to create a phantom cash flow. She was drowning in debt and desperation. And when Margaret discovered this profound financial betrayal on a Saturday, her heart was broken before a bullet ever touched her. She went to the bank, devastated, her blood pressure spiking from the sheer stress of her own flesh and blood stealing from her. She demanded the bank remove Priscilla from the accounts immediately. But the bank told her to return on Monday. Monday. That single word became a death sentence. Priscilla realized her gravy train was derailing. She faced a choice: own up to her pathetic mistakes and face the music, or murder the woman who birthed her. She chose the latter. On that Monday morning, before 7 a.m, she crept into the home that had always been her sanctuary. Margaret was resting in her bed. Priscilla raised a small caliber weapon, a derringer, and pulled the trigger. But murder is a dirty and unpredictable business. The small bullet did not penetrate the skull deeply enough to kill. Imagine the sheer terror Margaret must have felt, waking up in agony, bleeding onto her pillows, completely unable to comprehend why. The strength of this woman was absolute. She dragged herself from her bed to the bathroom, desperately trying to clean her wounds with toilet tissue, clinging to life, and Priscilla just left her there. She went about her morning, established a flimsy alibi, pretended to go to the post office, and then, hours later, between 10 and 10:30, she returned. She walked into that bathroom, looked her bleeding and helpless mother in the eyes, and fired a second shot directly into her brainstem. You have to be kidding me. To possess that level of cold and reptilian detachment is beyond human comprehension. She did not render aid. She finished the job. Then, she clumsily staged a burglary. She tapped a small hole in the back door glass. But the idiot left the broken glass on the outside of the door. She took a mink coat and some jewelry, but left the expensive televisions sitting in plain sight. She neatly laid the contents of drawers on the floor, failing to understand that real burglars tear a room apart like wild animals. She then went back to work, playing the role of the frantic and worried daughter. She refused to let a colleague accompany her when she went to officially discover the body. When she dialed 911 at 12:30, her voice was nothing but a hollow and calculated performance. Investigators saw through the facade almost immediately. Her alibis dissolved like sugar in water. A witness saw her at a convenience store early that morning, proving she lied about her timeline. Another witness, looking at a rental house across the street, saw her car parked in the driveway precisely when the second and fatal shot echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Even a year later, in 1992, while out on bond awaiting her August trial, this creature tried to manipulate a store clerk over the phone, whispering desperate lies to change the testimony, completely unaware that detectives were recording every single damning word. The jury saw the absolute truth on August 28, 1992. They handed her a life sentence. But the true tragedy remains untouched by a gavel. Margaret Abernathy survived her husband, built a legacy, and offered nothing but unwavering support to her family, only to have her life extinguished by the very hand she once held as a child. A proud family destroyed, a beloved matriarch lost, all for a few $1,000s in a checking account. I tell you, the devil walks among us, and sometimes she calls you mother. Humans are peculiar creatures. They will take a life for the most absurd and petty reasons you can possibly imagine, and they will do it with a coldness that defies all logic. I tell you, in my years of looking into the eyes of killers, the one thing that never fails to chill my blood is the absolute fragility of human loyalty. You have a beautiful young woman named Pamela Pitts, just 19 years old, living in the quiet town of Prescott, Arizona. Pamela is the kind of girl who lights up a room. She is the oldest of four, a mentor, a sister, a young woman with a bright smile and a massive heart, just trying to figure out her place in the world. She decides to spread her wings and moves in with a friend, an 18-year-old girl named Shelley Norgard. Now, Shelley is a different story altogether. Shelley is a girl with a shadow over her, a history of abandonment, a stern father she desperately wants to avoid, and a bottomless pit of insecurity. To Shelley, Pamela is not just a roommate. Pamela is an anchor, a lifeline, a substitute family. But Pamela is a teenager. She is growing. She wants to move on. She wants to go to beauty college. She wants to move back home because the rent is not getting paid and the tension is rising. And to a mind like that of Shelley, a mind fractured by a perceived lack of control, that simple, natural desire for independence is perceived as the ultimate betrayal. On the 16th of September 1988, Pamela vanishes. No word, no trace. The father of Pamela, Paul, a good man who loves his daughter fiercely, knows something is terribly wrong. 13 days pass. 13 days of agonizing silence. Then, a target shooter out near a local recreational area known as Gordo Pit spots a stick protruding from a burn pile. Only it is not a stick. It is a human arm. My, the cruelty of it, the brutality. The victim is burned beyond all recognition, discarded like common trash in a fire pit. Dental records confirm the unthinkable. It is Pamela. The medical examiner finds heat kill fly larvae, telling us she was dead for a while before she was set ablaze. It was a dump site, a calculated effort to erase a human being from existence. You have to be kidding me. To do that to someone you called a friend. We look at the boyfriend, Bobby Kitchener. Solid alibi. We look at Shelley. Shelley spins a web. She claims she went out with her new boyfriend, Ray Clerks, and drove around until 2:30 in the morning. But Ray cannot corroborate that. And then the whispers start. Friends say Shelley was furious that night, hunting for Pamela, blaming Pamela for everything wrong in her life. Shelley had even bragged in the past about how to dispose of a body, making them a missing person first, burning them, or dropping them down a mine shaft. A classic mistake. Criminals love to hear themselves talk. They think they are the smartest people in the room, but there is no physical evidence, no DNA. The rumors swirl, stories of satanic cults, tales of a fight with another girl named Melinda Perry. Melinda gets dragged through the mud, charged with perjury. Before everyone realizes she has nothing to do with it, the case goes ice cold. The years drag on. The family waits, suffering in that terrible limbo that only the families of murder victims truly understand. Then we jump to the 25th of May 1991. 3 years have passed. College students exploring a cave find a vertical mine shaft. Down in the dark, they spot a body snagged on some lumber. A young white male, shot in the head, wrapped in a waterbed liner. Dental records give him a name. Ray Clerks, 24 years old, the boyfriend of Shelley. The very same Ray who could not verify her alibi 3 years prior. Ray was planning to move to California, planning to leave Shelley behind. I tell you, History does not just repeat itself, it stutters. 2 people try to leave Shelley Norgard, and 2 people end up brutally murdered. Investigators find the fingerprint of Shelley on a flashlight at the mine shaft. They search her car. It reeks of death. The blood of Ray is in the trunk. Caught in her own web, she takes a plea deal. Murder in the 2nd degree. 20 years in prison. She claims he was lying on the hood of the car while stargazing. She lost her mind when he said he was leaving, shot him, wrapped him up, drove him into the woods, and later dumped him in the mine. A cold, calculated execution disguised as a crime of passion. She goes away, but the family of Pamela is still waiting for their justice. 18 long years pass. We reach the year 2011. A cold case detective opens a file. He sees the connection immediately. He knows what Shelley is capable of doing. She is getting out of prison soon. They interview her, rattle her cage, see what falls out. They listen to 97 recorded jail calls. Criminals simply cannot handle the pressure of being watched. Finally, on one call with her father, the facade cracks. Her father says he's been wondering for 20 years what actually happened, that she never told him. And the line goes dead silent. The silence of guilt. It takes another 6 years to build a case, but on the 2nd of June 2017, they finally arrest Shelley, now known as Shelley Harmon, for the murder of Pamela Pitts. The cowardice on her face said it all. But the justice system is a flawed machine. Witnesses are gone, memories fade. In the year 2021, she takes another plea. She stands in a courtroom and weaves a sterile, sanitized version of the truth. She claims she found Pamela at a party. They argued. She knocked Pamela down and just kept hitting her until she stopped breathing. She conveniently leaves out the part where she transported the body, left it to rot, and then set it on fire to destroy the evidence. She gets credit for time served. She walks out those doors at 50 years old, a woman who extinguished 2 bright, beautiful lives because her fragile ego could not handle rejection. It is a bitter pill for Paul Pitts and his family to swallow. But they take the small victory, the public confession, the undeniable truth that she is a monster. Pamela and Ray deserved so much better. They had dreams, they had potential, they had people who loved them. The world needs to remember Pamela not for how she died, but for the fireball she was, the bright light that was stolen by a pathetic, selfish shadow. My, what a tragic, senseless waste. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you can possibly imagine. Love, money, jealousy, or sometimes just the crushing weight of their own existence. When you look into the eyes of a killer, you expect to see a monster. But more often than not, you just see someone who let their darkest thoughts take the wheel. I tell you, the human mind is a dangerous neighborhood, and you should never go in there alone. Take the town of Kannapolis, North Carolina, a quiet place built on textiles and southern hospitality. The kind of town where people leave their doors unlocked and know their neighbors. In July of 2013, that peace was shattered. The victim was Shirley Pierce, 62 years old, by all accounts a saint. A woman who worked hard her whole life, raised a beautiful daughter, adored her grandson, and was finally getting her happily ever after with her fiancé, Chuck Reeves. She was a woman who gave her time to charities, a woman who smiled at strangers, and for that, someone decided she needed to die. When we get the call, it is Chuck on the line. He came over to check on Shirley and found a nightmare. The house smelled of bleach, a deliberate attempt to destroy evidence. In my line of work, bleach means premeditation. It means the killer knew what they were doing and took their time. They found Shirley in the bathroom. The attack was personal. It was fueled by an absolute, blinding rage. You do not see this level of anger in a random burglary. This was a message. We start with Chuck. The spouse or the romantic partner is always suspect number 1. That is just statistics. But Chuck is devastated. His alibi is rock solid, verified by his employer out of town. We check his hands. Not a single scratch. You engage in a violent struggle with a sharp object. You're going to get cut. It is physics. Chuck is clean. We look at an old boyfriend, Richard. The man is in poor health, barely able to walk. He is not our guy either. Then the phone rings. It is always a phone call that shifts the tectonic plates of an investigation. An executive from Shirley's workplace, Irvin Johnson, calls in. He says he thinks his wife, Marlene Johnson, committed the murder. My. You do not hear that every day. A husband turning in his own wife. You have to ask yourself, what kind of terror must a woman inflict on her own home for her husband to make that call? Marlene Johnson was born into money. She was a woman who never heard the word no. She was impeccably dressed, arrogant, and deeply insecure. In 2003, something inside her broke. A nervous breakdown shifted her reality. She became obsessed with the idea that Irvin was having an affair. When Irvin started working with Shirley, Marlene locked onto her like a heat-seeking missile. Shirley was everything Marlene was not. Shirley was genuinely kind, effortlessly loved, and at peace. Marlene was a prisoner of her own delusions. For years, Marlene stalked this innocent woman. She hired private investigators. When they found nothing, she did not accept the truth. She doubled down. She had drones flying over Shirley's house. She mapped out her grocery runs. This was not just jealousy. This was a profound sickness of the soul. Marlene constructed an entire alternate reality where Shirley was the villain and Marlene was the victim. It is a terrifying thing when a person convinces themselves that their paranoia is the truth. They become capable of anything. It culminated on a quiet Tuesday. Marlene slipped into Shirley's home. The evidence tells the story. A broken knife blade, a violent confrontation, and then the cleanup. Marlene tried to wash away her sins with bleach. But science is a stubborn thing. We found Marlene's blood on the shower curtain. DNA does not lie. DNA does not have an agenda. When we brought Marlene in, she sat there with her sunglasses on, looking bored. She thought she was the smartest person in the room. Criminals always do. They think they have outsmarted the system. But we look at her hands. The tips of her artificial nails are missing. She has cuts all over her fingers. You have to be kidding me. You think sunglasses are going to hide the fact that your hands look like they just went through a meat grinder? She tried to use a friend, Tim Connor, as an alibi. Tim was a motivational speaker, a polished guy. But under the pressure of a homicide investigation, polish cracks. Tim folded. He admitted Marlene asked him to lie. Marlene Johnson went to trial, wrapped in her expensive clothes, still playing the victim. But the jury saw right through the designer fabric. They saw the cold, calculated murder underneath. She collapsed when she heard the guilty verdict. For the first time in her life, her money and her attitude could not save her. She took a beautiful life because she could not fix her own broken mind. But sometimes the mind breaks for an entirely different reason. Not out of jealousy, but out of absolute, suffocating despair. Moved down to St. Petersburg, Florida, May of 2005. A foreclosure company is cleaning out a mobile home. The place is abandoned, but there are air fresheners everywhere. Pine trees dial UPS baking soda. A desperate, pathetic attempt to mask the inescapable odor of death. In the back bedroom, wrapped in blankets and plastic, they find what is left of a human being. The victim is Deborah Burns, 40 years old. But mentally, Deborah was a child. A childhood bout of scarlet fever left her with severe neurological damage. And that brings us to her sister, Barbara Burns. To understand this tragedy, you have to look at the decades of invisible chains wrapped around Barbara. When Barbara was 15 years old, a time when most girls are worrying about school dances and driving tests, her father died. Her mother handed her the responsibility of caring for Deborah. From that day forward, Barbara ceased to exist as an individual. She became a nurse, a guardian, a captive. For 40 years, she worked minimum wage jobs, cooked every meal, and endured the demanding, often abusive behavior of a sister who did not have the mental capacity to understand gratitude. Then, a fleeting moment of hope. A brother dies and leaves them $350,000. For a brief second, the sun shines on Barbara Burns. They buy a home. They travel. But Deborah, with the impulse control of a toddler and access to a fortune, spends it all. Pinball machines, toys, online scams. In 3 years, the money is gone. The fantasy evaporates. Barbara is staring down the barrel of another 40 years of poverty and servitude. August 14th, Deborah's 40th birthday. They go out to eat. They argue about money. They go home, and the argument turns physical. Deborah hits Barbara. It is the same cycle of abuse Barbara has endured her whole life. But this night, something inside Barbara simply gives way. The human psyche is like a bridge. It can bear a tremendous amount of weight, but if you keep loading it, eventually the steel groans, the rivets pop, and the whole thing comes crashing down into the river. Barbara waits until Deborah is asleep. She takes a handgun, walks into the bedroom they share, and fires 1 round. When my colleagues found Barbara working at a convenience store in Virginia Beach, she tried to lie. She said she had no sister, but the lie was fragile. When they pushed, she broke down. She wept, not the tears of a calculated killer mourning her capture, but the tears of a broken woman haunted by her own actions. She said she did not know why she did it, but I know. She was drowning, and the only way to get her head above water was to let go of the anchor. She lived with the body for 6 weeks. She sprayed air fresheners. She pretended Deborah was just asleep. That is not the behavior of a cold-blooded murderer. That is the behavior of a mind that has completely shattered, trying to glue the pieces back together in the dark. Barbara pled guilty to manslaughter. She took her 15 years. In prison, for the first time in her life, someone else cooked her meals. Someone else told her what to do. The iron bars of the state penitentiary offered her more freedom than she had ever known on the outside. 2 very different cases. One driven by a woman who had everything and wanted more, fueled by phantom jealousy. The other driven by a woman who had nothing, crushed by a lifetime of inescapable duty. Marlene Johnson is a predator. Barbara Burns is a tragic casualty of circumstance, but the end result is exactly the same. 2 innocent women, Shirley and Deborah, dead before their time. I tell you, you spend enough time looking at the darkness, you realize it comes in the heart of the American Southwest lies the Prescott National Forest, a vast expanse of untamed nature where residents seek solace, recreation, and a return to equilibrium, for a culture that deeply values the harmonious balance between humanity and the natural world. A sanctuary like this should be a place of quiet reflection and shared joy. Yet, beneath the canopy of ancient trees, a profound darkness took root. This is a harrowing chronicle of a community shattered by violence, a testament to the enduring anguish of 2 families, and a profound journalistic exploration of the fragile human psyche. On the evening of September 29, 1988, the tranquility of the forest was forever broken. A local citizen, concluding his day of target shooting in the fading light, stumbled upon the remnants of a rural fire pit. What he initially mistook for a discarded branch protruding from the ashes was, in fact, a human arm. The local authorities from the Yavapai County Sheriff Department were summoned immediately via a 911 emergency call. They arrived to a scene of incomprehensible brutality. A young woman had been discarded like refuse. Her physical form burned beyond recognition. The indignity of her final resting place stood in stark contrast to the inherent dignity every human being deserves. Through careful dental record comparisons, the victim was identified as 19-year-old Pamela Pitts. Pamela, known affectionately as Pam, had been missing for 13 agonizing days. To understand the profound tragedy of her loss, one must understand the light she carried. Pam possessed a rare vitality, an authentic joy for living that resonates deeply with the spirit of embracing life fully. She was the eldest of 4 siblings, a guiding force in her family, described by her father, Paul, as a wonderful youth who radiated warmth. She dreamed of attending beauty college, driven by an artistic soul that sought to bring more beauty into the world. Seeking independence, Pam had moved into an apartment with an 18-year-old acquaintance, Shelley Norgard. The contrast between the inner worlds of the two young women was stark. While Pam was anchored by the unwavering love of her family, Shelley drifted in a sea of emotional turbulence. Her past was marked by profound abandonment. The departure of her mother and the harsh strictures of her father left Shelley with a consuming void. Instead of seeking the healthy, measured balance of human connection, Shelley developed a fierce, suffocating attachment to those around her. When she felt the warmth of a relationship slipping away, her fear of abandonment morphed into an uncontrollable, destructive rage. Pam, realizing the living arrangement was deteriorating due to unpaid rent and severe emotional strain, confided in her father that she wished to return to the sanctuary of her family home. She had not yet informed Shelley of her departure. On September 16, 1988, Pam vanished without a trace. The investigation that followed was a labyrinth of false leads, whispers, and community hysteria. Rumors of ritualistic cults swept through the town of Prescott. A young woman named Melinda Perry was falsely accused of beating Pam in a fight and even faced charges of perjury before the absolute truth of her innocence prevailed. Through it all, Shelley maintained an alibi, though cracks in her facade were visible to those who looked closely. She spoke chillingly to friends about how one might dispose of a human being by burning them or dropping them down a mine shaft. Yet, without the modern miracle of deoxyribonucleic acid testing, which was then in its infancy, or concrete physical evidence linking her to the desolate fire pit, the authorities could not pierce the veil of her deception. The case grew agonizingly cold. 3 years elapsed. The community tried to heal, leaning heavily on their shared solidarity and resilience. But the darkness within Shelley Norgard had not been extinguished. By 1991, she was deeply involved with a 24-year-old man named Ray Clerks. Ray was a young man of great promise, an aspiring commercial pilot whose gaze was fixed on the vast, open skies. He belonged to a tight-knit family that grounded him in steadfast love. When Ray decided to end the relationship and relocate to California without Shelley, history repeated itself with terrifying precision. On May 25, 1991, explorers deep within a mountain cave made a grisly discovery in a vertical mine shaft. The severely decomposed body of a young male was found, wrapped tightly in a waterbed liner. He had been shot in the head. It was the missing aviator, Ray Clerks. This time, the evidence was undeniable and absolute. A single fingerprint on a flashlight left near the improvised tomb, coupled with a tragic scent of death and matching blood within the trunk of Shelley's vehicle, sealed her fate. Arrested in June of 1991, Shelley eventually confessed to the court in 1993. She admitted to executing Ray in a fit of jealous rage as they looked at the stars, simply because he intended to leave her and take their dog with him. She was sentenced to 20 years in the state penitentiary for second-degree murder. For the family of Pamela Pitts, this revelation was a bitter confirmation of their darkest fears. They endured decades of profound silence, their resilience a quiet monument to a father's enduring love for his daughter. They waited for the heavy wheels of justice to turn, fueled by a collective hope that the truth of the forest would eventually rise to the surface. That moment arrived in the spring of 2017. A dedicated cold case team had reopened the investigation in 2011, just as Shelley was nearing the end of her 20-year sentence. Investigators had interviewed her in prison and meticulously recorded 97 of her telephone communications. It took years for a dedicated detective to review those calls, but his patience yielded a monumental breakthrough. In a conversation with her father, Shelley was confronted about her secrets regarding Pam. Her sudden, panicked silence on the telephone line spoke volumes, providing the circumstantial weight needed by the state. On June 2, 2017, Shelley Norgar Harmon was arrested for the murder of Pamela Pitts. The ensuing legal battle was fraught with the severe challenges of a 30-year-old case. Crucial witnesses had passed away, and memories had faded into the desert wind. Facing an uncertain trial, prosecutors secured a plea agreement to ensure some measure of accountability. On March 1st, 2021, Shelley stood before a judge and finally unburdened a portion of her dark truth. She recounted tracking Pam down at a local gathering in the wilderness. A heated argument erupted, born entirely from Shelley's pathological inability to accept rejection and her total lack of emotional moderation. She admitted to striking Pam, knocking her to the earth, and continuing a brutal, relentless assault until the young woman ceased breathing. She claimed she then fled in a panic, deliberately refusing to admit to the horrific burning of the remains. For this confession, at 50 years of age, she was sentenced to time served and walked free into the world. It is a legal resolution that leaves a heavy weight upon the collective heart of the community. True justice often feels elusive, an imperfect human construct that cannot replace the vibrant lives that were stolen. Yet, in the face of such profound tragedy, we must look to the enduring light that remains. We choose to remember Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerks not for the violent manner of their passing, but for the beautiful, dynamic lives they led. This narrative serves as a stark, educational warning of the destructive power of unchecked emotional turmoil and the catastrophic consequences of losing one's inner equilibrium. However, it also stands as a permanent testament to the indestructible bonds of family and community. The families of Pam and Ray endured unimaginable sorrow, yet they never surrendered their dignified pursuit of truth. In their steadfast devotion, we witnessed the very best of humanity, a powerful reminder that even in the longest, darkest nights, the collective spirit of love and human solidarity will always seek the dawn. The Prescott National Forest in Arizona has long been a sanctuary for those seeking a quiet retreat from the noise of the modern world. It is a place where locals naturally gravitate to seek that delicate balance with nature, an echo of the deeply rooted French philosophy of living in harmony with the earth and finding a profound sense of sufficiency in the quiet beauty of the natural world. Yet, beneath the serene canopy, a profound tragedy shattered the peace of a small community in the late summer of 1988, leaving a legacy of sorrow that would take decades to resolve. Pamela Pitts, a 19-year-old woman radiating an infectious joy for life, vanished without a trace on the 16th of September. She was an embodiment of youth and vitality, deeply connected to her family, and serving as a guiding light and trusted confidant for her younger siblings. Her spirit was one of boundless warmth, looking forward to a future full of creative possibilities. 13 days later, on the 29th of September, the harmony of the forest was irreparably broken. A local resident, finishing an evening of recreation, stumbled upon a fire pit. What he discovered was not the remnants of a joyful gathering, but a scene of unimaginable horror. The body of Pamela had been subjected to a brutal end, left in a condition that defied comprehension. In the face of this darkness, the community, bound by a spirit of solidarity and resilience much like the unbreakable bonds seen in times of crisis across French history, rallied around her devastated family. The investigation soon turned toward her living arrangements, uncovering a deeply troubling psychological contrast between Pamela and her roommate, Shelley Norgard. While Pamela possessed a radiant light and a secure foundation of familial love, 18-year-old Shelley navigated a dark inner landscape marked by a fractured family and a desperate, clinging need for connection. Shelley carried the heavy, silent burdens of profound abandonment. When Pamela began making plans to move out due to financial disagreements, Shelley felt her fragile world crumbling. To Shelley, this was not a natural transition of youth, but a devastating betrayal that awakened a dark, uncontrollable resentment. Despite relentless efforts by the local authorities, the investigation faced immense hurdles. Unfounded rumors of cults and ritualistic violence swept through the town, a manifestation of collective anxiety when a community struggles to comprehend such profound malice. The case slowly grew cold, but the pursuit of truth never wavered. The investigators, driven by a noble dedication to justice, maintained their vigil. The narrative took a chilling and tragic turn 3 years later, in May of 1991. A group of young scholars exploring a remote cave discovered another grim reality within a vertical mine shaft. The victim was Ray Clerks, a 24-year-old man with bright dreams of taking to the skies as a commercial aviator. He was a romantic partner of Shelley Norgard. His life had been abruptly extinguished just days prior. Shortly after, he expressed his intention to end their relationship and relocate to California. The undeniable physical evidence, including traces found within her personal vehicle, bound Shelley to this second horrific act. Her intense fear of abandonment had completely morphed into a catastrophic possessiveness. When faced with the loss of control and the departure of someone she claimed to love, she responded with ultimate violent finality. Confronted with the evidence, she confessed to the crime, accepting a sentence of 20 years in the state penitentiary. However, the haunting shadow of Pamela Pitts still lingered in the hearts of the dedicated investigators and her grieving but remarkably resilient family. Time moved forward, spanning nearly 3 decades. Yet the dedication to uncovering the truth remained a steadfast beacon. In the year 2017, a meticulous review of 97 recorded telephone conversations from the prison revealed a momentary lapse in Shelley's guarded demeanor during a call with her father. This subtle, chilling exchange was a vital key that finally unlocked the decades-old mystery. Faced with the unyielding pursuit of the authorities, Shelley, now known by her married name Harmon, finally admitted her role in the demise of Pamela, detailing a physical altercation born of deep-seated rage that escalated until Pamela breathed her last. In the spring of 2021, at the age of 50, Shelley pleaded guilty to the tragic crime. Because she had already served 2 decades for her previous conviction and spent several years awaiting trial for this case, she was released from custody. While the scales of justice may sometimes seem imperfect to the human eye, the enduring strength of the Pitts family remains a profound testament to the resilience of the human heart. They chose not to let hatred consume them, but rather to passionately honor the vibrant memory of Pamela and the unrealized potential of Ray. Through their immeasurable loss, they remind us of the enduring power of community, the unwavering pursuit of truth, and the vital importance of cherishing the light in those we hold dear. This deeply human tragedy, set against the vast American landscape, speaks to a universal truth understood deeply in the French ethos, that even in the face of unfathomable darkness, the human spirit, supported by solidarity and profound appreciation for life, will forever strive to find the light. The Shadows of Prescott, a tale of stolen joy and human fragility. Nature has a way of reminding us of our own smallness. In the sweeping, majestic landscapes of the Prescott National Forest in Arizona, one can easily find a kind of harmonious balance that we, as observers of the human condition, so deeply cherish. It is a place of profound beauty, where the air is clear and life feels grounded in the quiet rhythms of the earth. Yet, it was within the serene cradle of nature that a profound tragedy unfolded in the autumn of 1988, casting a long, chilling shadow over a close-knit community. This is a story of stolen youth, of a desperate search for justice, and ultimately, a reflection on the resilience of the human heart in the face of incomprehensible darkness. Pamela Pitts was 19 years old, a young woman whose spirit radiated a pure joy of living. She was the eldest of 4 siblings, an anchor for her family, and a beacon of warmth for her friends. Pamela possessed that rare, beautiful equilibrium, a deep appreciation for her loved ones, and an open, eager heart ready to embrace the world. She had dreams of attending beauty college, artistic inclinations, and a vibrant, magnetic personality that drew people naturally toward her. She embodied the light of youth. On the 16th of September, 1988, that bright light was abruptly extinguished. When she failed to appear for work after a weekend of silence, her father, Paul, felt the immediate, visceral dread that only a parent can know. 13 days later, on the 29th of September, The devastating truth was unearthed near a local recreational area known to residents as Gordo's Pit. Pamela had been brutally taken from this world, her remains subjected to the unforgiving destruction of fire, leaving communities shattered and a family thrust into an enduring nightmare. As investigative authorities delved into the life of the young victim, the focus inevitably turned toward those closest to her, highlighting the complex and often fragile nature of human relationships. Pamela had recently moved in with an 18-year-old acquaintance named Shelley Norgard. To truly understand the genesis of this tragedy, one must look deep into the contrasting psychologies of these two young women. While Pamela was securely rooted in the love of a stable family, Shelley was a soul adrift in a turbulent sea of isolation, the profound absence of a nurturing mother and the heavy, demanding weight of a strict father had left an echoing void within Shelley. She craved connection and family, yet she lacked the foundational peace and emotional balance required to sustain it. When financial pressures over rent mounted and Pamela expressed a healthy, mature desire to move back to the sanctuary of her family home, Shelley perceived this not as a natural progression of life, but as a catastrophic, unforgivable rejection. Her internal world, devoid of the emotional security that fosters empathy, twisted into a possessive and ultimately destructive rage. She blamed Pamela for every misfortune in her own life, transforming her roommate from a friend into the singular target of her profound inner turmoil. Despite mounting suspicions and deeply troubling statements made by Shelley regarding her desire to find Pamela and exact revenge, the authorities faced a landscape completely devoid of physical evidence. Years passed. The trail grew agonizingly cold, but the solidarity of Pamela's family never wavered. Their quiet dignity and unyielding hope stand as a testament to the enduring power of familial love, a bond that no passage of time, nor the cruelty of circumstance, could ever sever. The fragility of life was starkly and tragically highlighted once more in the spring of 1991. Deep within the earth, inside a vertical mine shaft, local explorers discovered the remains of 24-year-old Ray Clerks. Ray was an aspiring commercial airline pilot, a young man defined by his deep sense of responsibility, his ambition, and his strong ties to his family. He was also Shelley Norgard's romantic partner. When Ray decided to end their relationship and move forward with his life without her, he was met with the same terrifying, all-consuming void that had claimed Pamela. In an act of unfathomable possessiveness and anger, Shelley took his life with a firearm while they were stargazing, later concealing his body with a chilling detachment. The subsequent discovery of physical evidence in her vehicle led to her arrest in June of 1991. She eventually confessed to the crime and was sentenced to 20 years in the state penitentiary. For the family of Pamela Pitts, this development brought a bitter mixture of validation and renewed agony. The woman who had taken Ray was undoubtedly the same woman who had harbored such intense hatred for Pamela. Yet the evidentiary threshold required to prove it in a court of law remained just out of reach. For nearly 3 decades, the dedicated investigators and the Pitts family maintained a silent, steadfast vigil. Their unwavering perseverance is a profound reflection of the human spirit's capacity to endure, suffering while maintaining a moral compass directed firmly toward the truth. Justice, though severely delayed, finally began to take shape in 2017. A dedicated team of cold case investigators, revisiting the ghosts of the past, uncovered recorded prison telephone conversations from 2011, shortly before Shelley's release from her first sentence. In a subtle but revealing exchange with her father regarding the reopened investigation, the heavy silence and shared anxiety spoke volumes. Armed with this new contextual evidence and a renewed understanding of the timeline, authorities arrested Shelley Norgard, now 50 years old, for the murder of Pamela Pitts. The pursuit of legal accountability in a case spanning over 30 years is fraught with immense difficulty. Witnesses pass away, memories alter, and the physical world reclaims its spaces. Faced with the reality of an uncertain trial, a legal compromise was reached. On the 1st of March, 2021, Shelley stood before a judge and finally admitted to ending Pamela's life during a violent physical altercation in the woods, though she steadfastly refused to speak of the devastating aftermath and the fire. Due to the legal complexities of the plea agreement and the decades she had already served behind bars, she was permitted to walk free. True closure is often an illusion, a neat conclusion that exists only in the pages of fiction. For the parents, siblings, and friends left behind, the resolution of the court is but a small fraction of the absolute justice their hearts seek. Yet, in observing their long, painful journey, we find profound lesson in humanity. We are reminded to hold our loved ones closely, to passionately cherish the simple, harmonious moments of our daily existence, and to consciously foster environments of emotional security and empathy for our youth. Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerks were innocent victims of profound absence of light in another human being, but their legacy is not defined by that darkness. Their memories live on vibrantly in the fierce, unbroken love of their families, serving as a beautiful testament to lives well lived, and reminding us all of our shared duty to protect the light, the compassion, and the joy of living in one another, in the heart of the Prescott National Forest, a place where nature offers an endless sanctuary for recreation and peace. A profound tragedy shattered the harmonious balance of a small Arizona community. It was the autumn of 1988, a time when the leaves began to turn, signaling a change in the seasons. But no one could have anticipated the chilling winter that was about to descend upon the souls of the local residents. To truly comprehend this tragedy, we must look beyond the clinical details of police reports. We must view it through a lens of profound human empathy, recognizing both the fragile beauty of our sheer joy of living and the devastating consequences when the human heart loses its essential equilibrium. Pamela Pitts, a vibrant young woman of 19 years, embodied a spirit of boundless warmth and grace. She was the eldest of 4 children, a guiding light for her siblings, and a soul who approached the world with open arms and a trusting heart. Her essence was deeply connected to a pure love for life, seeking joy in simple connections, artistic endeavors, and the beauty of human relationships. She carried within her a natural desire for harmony, striving for a peaceful coexistence with everyone she encountered. Pamela was the kind of person who anchored her community, reflecting the very best of human nature through her radiant smile and unwavering loyalty to her family. In stark contrast stood her roommate, 18-year-old Shelley Norgard. If Pamela was the warmth of the sun, Shelley was a gathering storm of unresolved pain. Driven by a childhood scarred by familial fracture, a stern father, and the devastating trauma of maternal abandonment, Shelley existed in a state of chronic emotional starvation. She lacked the fundamental inner peace and balance necessary to navigate the complexities of adulthood. Her attachment to Pamela was not born of genuine friendship, but rather of a desperate, consuming hunger to possess the family connection she had always been denied. When Pamela, sensing the suffocating weight of Shelley's instability and irresponsibility, decided to gracefully step away and return to the safety of her own family, Shelley's fragile world collapsed into a terrifying abyss of jealousy and blinding rage. She saw Pamela not as a friend seeking her own path, but as the source of all her life's failures. On the evening of the 16th of September, 1988, Pamela vanished without a trace. 13 days later, on the 29th of September, a local resident wandering through the serene forest made a discovery that defied the very bounds of human decency. In a fire pit meant for gathering and warmth, lay the unrecognizable, burned remains of the young woman. The brutality of the act was incomprehensible, a desecration that shocked the collective conscience of town. Rumors of cults and dark rituals swept through community. This was a natural psychological defense mechanism for a society struggling to understand how such profound malice could exist in their peaceful enclave. Yet, the truth was far more intimate, rooted deeply in the tragic flaws of human nature. Time moved forward, and the investigation grew cold, but the shadow in Shelley's heart only deepened. By the spring of 1991, Shelley was living with her boyfriend, 24-year-old Ray. He was a promising young man with dreams of taking to the skies as a commercial airline pilot, a responsible soul anchored by a loving, tight-knit family. But Ray, too, recognized the suffocating darkness within Shelley and prepared to leave for California, intending to sever their ties forever. Confronted once more with the unbearable agony of abandonment, Shelley's inner void demanded another tragic toll. As they lay gazing at the stars, she shot him, wrapping his body and eventually casting it into the cold, silent depths of an abandoned vertical mine shaft. When Ray was discovered late in May of 1991, the grim pattern became undeniable to investigators. Shelley was arrested in June of that year, ultimately pleading guilty to second-degree murder and serving 20 years behind bars. Yet, for Pamela's grieving father and siblings, the agonizing wait for justice stretched across decades. The investigators, however, possessed a quiet endurance and unyielding determination. Their commitment to uncovering the truth never wavered, reflecting a profound dedication to restoring the moral balance of their community. In 2011, Shelley was released from prison. She assumed a new life, a new name, and a new marriage, seemingly moving on while two families remained forever tethered to their grief. It was not until 2017, after a dedicated detective painstakingly reviewed 97 recorded prison phone calls, that a subtle, chilling conversation with her father finally provided the crucial leverage needed by the authorities. Nearly 30 years after she extinguished Pamela's bright light, Shelley was arrested once more. On the 1st of March, 2021, at 50 years of age, she stood before a judge and confessed to beating Pamela to death in a fit of uncontrollable rage during a confrontation in the forest. Her punishment was merely the time she had already served awaiting trial, a legal resolution that left many hearts heavy and yearning for a harsher retribution. However, true justice is not solely found within the confines of a courtroom. It resides vibrantly in memory, resilience, and the enduring solidarity of a community. The families of Pamela and Ray have survived the absolute darkest depths of sorrow, bound together by an enduring love that acts of violence could never erase. As we reflect upon this harrowing saga, we must hold fast to the light these young souls brought into the world. They remind us to cherish our own simple joys, to fiercely nurture the harmony within our homes, and to stand resilient in the face of life's deepest sorrows. Their memories continue to inspire a collective strength, teaching us that while the shadows of the human heart can be terrifyingly deep, the enduring power of love, community, and the unyielding human spirit will always rise triumphant above the ashes. The vast and rugged landscapes of the Prescott National Forest in Arizona offer a natural sanctuary, a place where the local community has long sought recreation, peace, and that delicate balance of life we deeply cherish as a true harmony with nature. Yet, beneath the canopy of this tranquility, a profound darkness lingered for over 3 decades, shattering the equilibrium of a small town and leaving scars that only time and unwavering human solidarity could begin to heal. This is a story of unfathomable betrayal, the tragic loss of youthful promise, and the extraordinary resilience of families who waited a lifetime for justice. In the autumn of 1988, the community of Prescott was forever altered. Pamela Pitts, a vibrant 19-year-old woman known for her radiant smile and profound devotion to her family, vanished without a trace on the 16th of September. Pamela embodied the vitality and joie de vivre that defines the best of our youth. She was an anchor for her younger siblings, a compassionate soul who drew people toward her warmth. Eager to begin her adult life, she had recently moved into an apartment with a new acquaintance, Shelley Norgard. To understand the tragedy that unfolded, one must examine the stark psychological contrast between these two young women. Pamela was a nurturing spirit, artistic and ambitious, holding dreams of attending beauty college or pursuing fashion design. Shelley, however, carried a profound, agonizing void. Psychological analysis of Shelley's background suggests a severely fractured foundation, marked by parental estrangement and deep-seated fears of abandonment. For Shelley, Pamela was not merely a roommate. She was a lifeline, a surrogate family. When Pamela, frustrated by financial disputes and Shelley's lack of responsibility, expressed a desire to move back to her family home, Shelley's fragile emotional architecture collapsed. The prospect of abandonment did not simply invoke sorrow in Shelley. It ignited a desperate, possessive rage. On the 29th of September, 1988, that rage manifested in the most horrific manner imaginable. A local resident, finishing an evening of target practice near a popular community gathering spot known as Gordo's Pit, made a gruesome discovery at a burning fire pit. The Yavapai County Sheriff and the Prescott Police Department arrived to find remains that had been subjected to unimaginable brutality and subsequently set ablaze. Through dental records, the coroner identified the victim as the missing 19-year-old Pamela Pitts. The brutality of the crime scene indicated a deeply personal hatred. Destroying a victim by fire is often a psychological attempt by the perpetrator to utterly erase the individual from existence, a stark manifestation of a mind consumed by vengeance. Despite intense suspicion surrounding Shelley, who had been heard making ominous remarks about making people disappear, the investigative technique of the era could not bridge the gap between suspicion and physical proof. Without modern genetic testing, the case grew cold, leaving the Pitts family in an agonizing limbo, sustained only by their immense courage and community support. Time, however, has a way of illuminating the darkest of secrets. The fatal flaw in a mind as severely unmoored as Shelley's is its compulsion to repeat destructive cycles when threatened. By 1991, Shelley was involved in a romantic relationship with a 24-year-old man named Ray Clerk. Ray was a driven, responsible young man with aspirations of becoming a commercial airline pilot. When he made the decision to end the relationship and move to California, without her, Shelley faced the same perceived abandonment she had experienced with Pamela. On the 25th of May, 1991, Ray vanished. Days later, his body was discovered by college students exploring a cave that led to a vertical mine shaft. He had been shot in the head. This time, the evidence was insurmountable. A fingerprint on a flashlight and biological evidence found in the trunk of Shelley's vehicle linked her directly to the murder. Confronted with the overwhelming proof, Shelley eventually confessed to shooting Ray as they lay stargazing, panicked, and later disposed of his body. She was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 years in the Arizona State Prison. For the Pitts family, the conviction was a bittersweet revelation. The woman who had murdered Ray was the very same woman they knew in their hearts had taken Pamela. Yet, the legal threshold for Pamela's case remained elusive. For over 2 decades, the community of Prescott demonstrated the true meaning of fraternity, standing vigil with the Pitts family as they navigated the painful passage of time, refusing to let Pamela's memory fade into obscurity. The turning point arrived in 2017. A dedicated cold case detective, refusing to let the past remain buried, meticulously reviewed 97 recorded prison telephone conversations made by Shelley prior to her release in 2011. In a chilling exchange with her father regarding the ongoing investigation into Pamela's death, the silence and the context provided the circumstantial anchor the prosecution needed. Shelley, who had since built a new life under the name Shelley Norgar Harmon, was arrested for the murder of Pamela Pitts. The pursuit of justice culminated on the 1st of March, 2021. Faced with an impending trial and aging witnesses, prosecutors secured a plea agreement. Standing before the court at 50 years of age, Shelley finally admitted to the events of 1988. She confessed to confronting Pamela, violently assaulting her until she stopped breathing and leaving her to perish. While she refused to elaborate on the desecration of the body, the confession provided the legal and emotional finality the family had desperately sought. She was credited for the 20 years served for Ray's murder and the subsequent time spent in county jail, allowing her to walk free. The resolution of the legal proceedings may not align with an ideal vision of retribution, but it stands as a testament to endurance. The story of Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerk is a profound reminder of the fragility of trust and the devastating consequences of unchecked psychological trauma. Yet, from this tragedy, a powerful narrative of human spirit emerges. The families of the victims survived the unimaginable through an unyielding love for their children and an unbreakable bond with their community. In remembering Pamela and Ray, we are called to honor their light, the ambition, the warmth, and the promise they held. They remind us to cherish our relationships, to live with empathy, and to hold fiercely to the bonds of family and community, which remain our greatest defense against the shadows of the world. The Silent Pines of Prescott, a chronicle of lost innocence, fractured souls, and the enduring quest for justice. In the heart of Arizona lies the Prescott National Forest, a vast expanse of towering pines and rugged terrain that offers a sanctuary for those seeking refuge from a modern world. In many ways, this majestic landscape mirrors the ancient, protected forests of rural France, where humanity has long sought harmony, balance, and a profound connection with the natural world. Nature, in its purest form, is meant to be a cradle of peace, a place where the soul finds its quiet rhythm. Yet, beneath the whispering canopy of Prescott, a harrowing tragedy unfolded, shattering the tranquil equilibrium of a close-knit community and revealing the darkest, most unfathomable depths of the human psyche. Our story begins in the autumn of 1988, centering on a vibrant 19-year-old woman named Pamela Pitts. To understand Pamela is to understand the very essence of the joy of living. She was the eldest of 4 children, a radiant anchor for her family, and a fiercely protective mentor to her younger siblings. Pamela possessed an infectious enthusiasm for life, an innate warmth that drew people toward her, and an artistic spirit that dreamed of beauty and creation. She stood on the threshold of adulthood, her heart open to the boundless possibilities of the future. In stark contrast to her roommate, 18-year-old Shelley Norgard. If Pamela embodied the sunlight, Shelley was a portrait of profound emotional winter. To delve into Shelley's internal world is to confront a landscape scarred by the trauma of early abandonment and an aching, desperate void. Raised in a fractured home under the shadow of a stern and distant father, Shelley never experienced the nurturing foundation that teaches a child how to love without suffocating the object of their affection. For Shelley, human connection was not a harmonious dance, but a desperate act of possession. When Pamela, seeking her own independence, decided to move out to escape the suffocating weight of their financial and emotional entanglements, the fragile architecture of Shelley's world began to collapse. On the 16th of September, 1988, Pamela vanished. 13 agonizing days later, on the 29th of September, a solitary target shooter walking through the forest made a discovery that would forever stain the collective memory of the town. At a local gathering spot known as Gordo's Pit, amidst the remnants of fire, the remains of Pamela Pitts were found. The brutality of the act was absolute. The perpetrator had utilized fire not merely to destroy evidence, but to erase Pamela's identity, an ultimate act of dehumanization. For Paul Pitts, Pamela's father, the news was a cataclysm that words cannot encompass. To lose a child is to lose a piece of the future. To lose a child to such malice is a wound that time alone cannot heal. The local authorities, lacking the advanced genetic profiling tools of the modern era, found themselves navigating a labyrinth of dead ends, local rumors of cult rituals, and silent witnesses. The investigation grew dormant, but the grief of the family remained a quiet, burning ember. The narrative of human tragedy, however, rarely rests when the roots of violence are left unchecked. Driven by an insatiable hunger for control, Shelley moved on, eventually forming a relationship with a 24-year-old aspiring pilot named Ray Clerks. Ray was a young man who looked upward. He longed for the skies, possessing a disciplined, responsible nature and a deep connection to his own family. He represented freedom and ambition. But freedom was the very concept Shelley's traumatized mind could not tolerate. When Ray decided to end their relationship and moved to California, the rejection triggered the deepest, most violent chasms of Shelley's abandonment terror. On the 25th of May, 1991, while they lay under the vast, indifferent tapestry of the night sky, Shelley executed a fatal betrayal. She shot Ray, ending a life full of promise, and callously discarded his body in an abandoned vertical mine shaft. It was a chilling testament to a soul that had completely severed its connection to the fundamental empathy that binds humanity together. Justice, though often slow, is an inexorable tide. The discovery of Ray's body, accompanied by undeniable physical evidence in Shelley's vehicle, led to her arrest in early June of 1991. She confessed to the murder of her boyfriend and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Yet, for the Pitts family, this was a fragmented victory. The shadow of Pamela's unsolved murder continued to loom large, a heavy silence hanging over the town. It would take 23 years for the arc of justice to bend back toward Pamela. In 2011, dedicated cold case investigators, refusing to let the memory of the young woman fade into oblivion, reopened the files. They applied relentless pressure, culminating in the monitoring of 97 telephone conversations Shelley had with her father just before her release from prison. In one chilling exchange in 2017, the weight of a guilty conscience surfaced through the silence. When her father questioned her about the night Pamela disappeared, Shelley's sudden, terrified hesitation spoke volumes. On the 2nd of June, 2017, nearly 30 years after Pamela's light was extinguished, investigators arrested Shelley for the murder of her former roommate. The legal battle that followed was fraught with the immense difficulties of a 3-decade-old case, failing memories, missing witnesses, and the relentless passage of time. Faced with the risk of an acquittal, prosecutors and the Pitts family made an agonizing but necessary choice. On the 1st of March, 2021, Shelley pleaded guilty, confessing that a heated argument had escalated into an uncontrollable, fatal rage. Having already served a decade behind bars, the 50-year-old was released for time served. From a philosophical perspective, this resolution leaves a bitter taste. True justice, much like true balance in life, is an ideal we strive for but rarely achieve in perfection. Yet, in the face of such profound darkness, the true measure of humanity is found in the resilience of those left behind. The Pitts and Clerks families endured the unimaginable with a quiet, unyielding grace. They chose to honor the memories of their loved ones not through the lens of hatred, but by preserving the light Pamela and Ray brought into the world. In recounting this somber chronicle, we are reminded of the fragile beauty of life and the paramount importance of nurturing compassion within our communities. The French ethos of knowing how to live, cherishing our bonds, finding equilibrium in our emotions, and respecting the sanctity of life, stands as a vital bulwark against the isolation and despair that can corrupt the human heart. Pamela and Ray were robbed of their futures, but their spirits remain interwoven in the memories of those who love them, an enduring testament to the fact that while violence may destroy the physical form, it can never extinguish the eternal resonance of love. The fragility of human life and the delicate balance of our existence are truths we hold deeply in our cultural consciousness. We cherish the harmony between humanity and nature, the quiet dignity of a life well lived, and the enduring strength of community solidarity. Yet, across the ocean in the rugged, sprawling wilderness of the Prescott National Forest in Arizona, a profound darkness once shattered this natural tranquility, leaving a scar on a small town that would take more than 3 decades to heal. As a journalist observing the depths of the human condition, one cannot help but be moved by the tragic intertwining of 2 disparate souls, one radiating the pure joy of life, and the other consumed by a devastating, hollow darkness. On the evening of the 29th of September, 1988, a local resident finishing his target practice stumbled upon a smoldering fire pit in an area known as Gordo's Pit. What he initially mistook for a branch was, to his absolute horror, a human arm protruding from the ashes. He rushed to contact emergency services by dialing 911. The remains have been desecrated and burned beyond recognition, a brutal act that shocked the core of the community. Through dental records, the victim was identified as 19-year-old Pamela Pitts, who had been missing for 13 agonizing days. To understand the profound tragedy of this loss, one must delve into the interior world of Pamela Pitts. She was a young woman who embodied a radiant zest for life, a spirit that embraced the world with an open heart and a bright, welcoming smile. As the eldest of 4 siblings, Pamela was a natural mentor, a guiding light who took her family under her wing. Her psychology was one of healthy expansion. She was exploring her artistic talents, contemplating a future in beauty or fashion, and cultivating a wide circle of friends. Pamela possessed a harmonious spirit, seeking the simple, balanced joys of youth and connection. She represented the warmth of human solidarity, a girl whose very presence brought comfort and a sense of belonging to those around her. In stark, tragic contrast stood her roommate, 18-year-old Shelley Norgard. The architecture of Shelley's mind was fractured by profound abandonment issues, the devastating fallout of a broken home and a stern, emotionally distant father. Shelley carried an insatiable void, a deep psychological starvation that she desperately sought to remedy through her attachment to Pamela. While Pamela offered genuine friendship, Shelley demanded an absolute, consuming anchor to steady her own turbulent existence. The psychology of the perpetrator in this tragedy is rooted in a toxic, desperate possession. When Pamela, seeking her own healthy independence and frustrated by Shelley's financial irresponsibility, decided to move back to her family home, Shelley's fragile world faced total collapse. Faced with the agonizing prospect of abandonment, Shelley's vulnerability mutated into a feral, uncontrollable rage. She could not bear the thought of Pamela existing outside of her grasp, living a life she could no longer control. For years, the small town of Prescott was haunted by the gruesome nature of the discovery. The horrific condition of the body birthed wild rumors of dark rituals and cult activities among the local youth. Yet, the truth was far more intimate and sorrowful. The investigation eventually went cold, devoid of concrete physical evidence or cooperative witnesses. Despite the lingering shadow of the unsolved crime, the community remained remarkably resilient. Neighbors and friends held on to hope for justice, standing shoulder to shoulder in their grief, a powerful testament to the enduring human spirit that binds society together when faced with unimaginable cruelty. The terrifying depth of Shelley's pathology was fully unmasked 3 years later, in May of 1991. The decomposing body of a 24-year-old man, Ray Clerks, was discovered discarded at the bottom of a vertical mine shaft. He had been shot in the head and wrapped in a waterbed liner. Ray was Shelley's boyfriend. Just like Pamela, Ray had planned to leave Shelley to start a new life in California without her. Faced once again with the perceived threat of rejection and abandonment, Shelley responded with lethal, calculating violence. She was ultimately arrested, confessed to shooting him as they lay gazing at the stars, and was sentenced to 20 years in prison for second-degree murder. Despite her incarceration for Ray's murder, Pamela's case remained unsolved for nearly 3 decades. It was not until the year 2011 that a dedicated cold case team reopened the dusty files. In 2017, after meticulously reviewing 97 recorded prison phone calls, detectives found the subtle opening they needed. Her hesitant, fearful conversations with her father regarding the reopened investigation provided the circumstantial weight required to secure an indictment. Finally, in March of 2021, 33 years after Pamela's light was violently extinguished, Shelley stood before a judge. She confessed to tracking Pamela down at a local outdoor party, initiating a confrontation, and beating her to death in a fit of uncontrollable, possessive fury. She claimed she hit Pamela until she stopped breathing, leaving the ensuing horrors unspoken. Through a controversial plea agreement, Shelley, then 50 years old, was released from custody, having been credited for the 2 decades served for her previous conviction and the years spent awaiting trial. For Pamela's family, The justice delivered was imperfect, a bitter reality to navigate. Yet, the unyielding resilience of Pamela's father, Paul, and the unwavering solidarity of their community offer a profound lesson in human dignity. While the scales of the legal system may sometimes feel unbalanced, the moral victory forever belongs to those who endure and who keep the memory of their loved ones alive with grace. Pamela and Ray were victims of a deeply broken soul unable to find peace within itself. But their legacies of ambition, familial love, and radiant light remain entirely untouched. Their memories continue to remind us to cherish the delicate balance of our lives, to nurture the warmth of our communities, and to stand united with compassion against the encroaching shadows. Title: The Shadows of Prescott, a tragedy of fractured souls and the endurance of the human spirit. As a journalist who has spent a lifetime observing the profound resilience, the unyielding solidarity, and the deep-seated appreciation for harmony that defines the French spirit, I am often drawn to stories that test the very fabric of human connection. We are a people who understand that true wealth lies in our relationships, in our joie de vivre, and in our ability to find balance with the natural world around us. Yet, even in the most serene landscapes, the human heart can harbor an unfathomable darkness. The tragedy that unfolded in the quiet, sun-drenched town of Prescott, Arizona, is a harrowing testament to fragility of life, the devastating consequences of fractured soul, and ultimately, the indomitable strength of a family's love. Prescott, much like our beloved provincial towns in France, is a place where nature provides a sanctuary. The Prescott National Forest offers its residents a vast expanse of towering trees and rugged terrain, a place for daytime recreation, for breathing in the pure air, and for finding peace away from the clamor of modern life. It was here, on the evening of September 29th, 1988, that this harmony was violently ruptured. A local resident, finishing a peaceful evening of target shooting, stumbled upon a smoldering fire pit. What he initially mistook for a branch emerging from the ashes was, to his absolute horror, a human arm. He immediately fled to a nearby pharmacy to dial 911, setting into motion an investigation that would haunt this community for more than 3 decades. The Yavapai County Sheriff deputies arrived at the location known to locals as Gordo's Pit, only to find a scene of unimaginable brutality. A body had been dumped beneath a pile of debris and set ablaze, burned beyond all recognition in a profound act of desecration. The medical examiner could confidently declare the death a homicide, yet the flames had stolen the ability to determine the exact cause. However, dental records soon provided a devastating truth. The victim was Pamela Pitts, a 19-year-old girl who had been missing for 13 agonizing days. To understand the sheer weight of this loss, one must understand who Pamela was. She was the embodiment of youth and vitality. As the eldest of 4 siblings, she was a fierce protector, a mentor, and the emotional anchor of her family. Her father, Paul, remembered her as a vibrant, artistic soul with a brilliant smile, a young woman who dreamed of attending beauty college and who possessed a natural ability to connect with anyone she met. Pamela had that rare, beautiful spark, a deep appreciation for the simple joys of life and family that resonates so deeply with our own cultural values of kinship and togetherness. In stark contrast to Pamela's radiant warmth was the encroaching shadow of her roommate, 18-year-old Shelley Norgard. Shelley was a young woman adrift. Raised in the turbulent wake of a bitter divorce, she harbored severe abandonment issues. Her mother had vanished from her life, and her relationship with her strict father was fraught with tension. For Shelley, moving in with Pamela was not just about sharing rent. It was a desperate attempt to anchor herself to someone else's light. But a soul devoid of inner peace cannot simply borrow balance from another. When financial pressures arose and Pamela, weary of the mounting irresponsibility, decided to move back to the loving embrace of her family, Shelley's fragile world began to collapse. The psychological chasm between the 2 young women is a poignant study in human nature. Pamela sought growth, familial connection, and harmony. Shelley, consumed by the terror of being left behind once more, descended into a possessive, consuming rage. Witnesses from the night of September 16th reported that Shelley was actively hunting for Pamela, bitterly proclaiming to anyone who would listen that Pamela was the source of all her life's misery. Furthermore, Shelley harbored a morbid fascination with violence, chillingly boasting to acquaintances about her theories on how to make a body disappear using fire or abandoned mine shafts. Despite these alarming red flags, the constraints of forensic science in the late 1980s hindered the authorities. Shelley provided a convoluted alibi, and without physical evidence or advanced deoxyribonucleic acid testing, the investigation eventually grew cold. The rumors of satanic cults and ritualistic sacrifices swirled through the town, a panicked community's attempt to rationalize a violence that defied all logic. Pamela's family was left to navigate a labyrinth of grief, relying on the quiet, enduring resilience that sustains communities through their darkest hours. They waited, they mourned, and they never let Pamela's memory fade. 3 years later, on May 25, 1991, the darkness struck again. College students exploring a cave system stumbled upon a vertical mine shaft. Peering into the abyss, they discovered the decomposing body of a young man, wrapped in a waterbed liner and snagged on some lumber. The victim had been shot in the head. He was quickly identified as Ray Clerks, a 24-year-old aspiring commercial pilot. Ray was responsible, ambitious, and deeply loved by a tight-knit family. He was also Shelley Norgard's live-in boyfriend. The terrifying pattern emerged with crystal clarity. Just as Pamela had planned to leave Shelley, Ray had recently decided to move to California to pursue his aviation dreams, and he had made it clear that Shelley was not coming with him. Faced once again with the unbearable prospect of abandonment, Shelley's internal chaos manifested in ultimate destruction. This time, the evidence was undeniable. Investigators found Shelley's fingerprints on a flashlight dropped down the mine shaft. The trunk of her car emanated the unmistakable odor of death and contained blood matching Ray's type. Confronted with the inescapable truth, Shelley confessed. She recounted a chilling tale. While stargazing, Ray reiterated his plan to leave. In a sudden, explosive loss of control, she shot him as he lay on the hood of the car, hid his body in the trunk for weeks, and eventually discarded him like refuse in the mine shaft. For this horrific crime, she accepted a plea deal, resulting in a conviction for second-degree murder and a sentence of 20 years in the Arizona State Prison. For Pamela's family, the revelation was a bitter vindication. The woman they had suspected all along was a proven killer, locked away where she could not harm another soul. Yet, justice for Pamela remained agonizingly out of reach. There was still no physical evidence tying Shelley directly to the fire pit. The years turned into decades. 18 long years passed. But true solidarity and the pursuit of truth do not bow to time. The families waited with a quiet, dignified endurance. In 2011, a cold case team breathed new life into the investigation. Detectives patiently monitored Shelley's communications as her release date approached. They sifted through 97 recorded jail phone calls. In a monumental breakthrough, in 2017, they struck gold during a call with her father, who expressed deep concern that detectives were probing Pamela's murder again. Shelley's father lamented that for 20 years she had never told him what truly happened. The line fell utterly silent. That silence, coupled with a staggering weight of circumstantial evidence and historical witness statements, was a catalyst the state needed. On June 2nd, 2017, almost 3 decades after Pamela's bright light was extinguished, investigators arrested Shelley for the murder of her former roommate. The ensuing legal battle was fraught with the challenges of a 30-year-old case. Witnesses had passed away or their memories had faded, facing a 50-50 chance at trial. Prosecutors presented Pamela's family with an excruciating choice. To secure a guaranteed conviction, they offered Shelley a plea agreement. On March 1st, 2021, at the age of 50, Shelley stood before a judge. She offered a sanitized, self-serving confession, claiming she confronted Pamela at a party. A physical altercation ensued, and in a blind rage, she beat her until she stopped breathing. She completely omitted the calculated, vicious act of transporting and burning the body. Because she received credit for the 20 years she had already served for Ray's murder, along with the years spent in county jail awaiting trial, Shelley walked out of the courtroom a free woman. The resolution of this case leaves a complex, lingering ache. It is a justice that feels incomplete, a compromise that forces a grieving family to swallow a bitter pill. Yet, as I reflect on this saga through the lens of a culture that reveres the strength of the human spirit, I see a profound victory embedded in the sorrow. Pamela's father, Paul, and her siblings chose to grasp the small, vital victory. The world finally knew the truth. The burden of doubt was lifted. They demonstrated an incredible, stoic grace, choosing to honor Pamela not by sinking into the abyss of endless hatred, but by fiercely preserving the memory of the joyous, loving girl she was. In the end, Shelley Norgard walked free, but she remains a prisoner of her own fractured, desolate soul, a tragic figure incapable of the very love and connection she so violently sought to possess. Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerks, though their lives were brutally cut short, achieved something eternal. They remain forever enshrined in the hearts of those who love them. Their memory is a testament to the enduring power of family, the beauty of a life lived with passion, and the unyielding resilience of communities that refuse to let the darkness win. In the heart of every community lies a delicate tapestry woven from trust, shared history, and a profound human need for connection. As an editor and journalist deeply rooted in the French tradition, I have long observed the world through the lens of our cultural heritage, a heritage that elevates the art of living, cherishes a harmonious existence with nature, and deeply values the spirit of balance and sufficiency. We understand that true wealth is found not in material excess, but in the quiet solidarity of family and the resilient bonds of brotherhood. It is through this lens of empathy and a profound respect for the sanctity of life that I approach a narrative of unimaginable sorrow that unfolded in the serene landscapes of the American Southwest, a story that ultimately became a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. The Prescott National Forest in Arizona is a place of boundless natural beauty, a sanctuary where one might seek the very harmony with nature that we so highly prize. Yet, in the autumn of 1988, this tranquility was shattered. At the center of this tragedy was Pamela Pitts, a vibrant 19-year-old woman whose life embodied the pure joy of living. Pamela was the eldest of 4 siblings, a natural mentor, and a guiding light within her household. Her inner world was rich with dreams of attending beauty college and pursuing artistic endeavors. She possessed an innate generosity, a desire to embrace life fully and share her radiant energy with everyone she met. Her family was her anchor, providing a foundation of unconditional love that allowed her to explore the world with confidence and grace. In stark contrast to Pamela's grounded existence was her roommate, Shelley Norgard. To understand the darkness that eventually consumed Shelley is to gaze into the abyss of profound emotional deprivation. Shelley, at 18 years old, carried the heavy burdens of a fractured past, marred by parental abandonment and an austere, emotionally distant upbringing, in a philosophy of life that values balance. A grounded sense of belonging is essential for the soul to thrive. Shelley lacked this entirely. She harbored a cavernous emptiness, a desperate hunger for connection that manifested as a suffocating, possessive grip on those around her. When Pamela offered her friendship in a shared home, Shelley did not merely see a roommate. She saw a lifeline, a substitute family. However, relationships built on the shifting sands of dependency are inherently fragile. As the summer of 1988 progressed, the harmonious balance required for any shared life began to disintegrate. Pamela, seeking her own path and burdened by financial strains caused by Shelley, decided it was time to return to the warm embrace of her family home. For a healthy mind, this is a natural, progressive transition. For Shelley, it was perceived as an apocalyptic betrayal. The inner psychological landscape of Shelley was one of absolute terror at the prospect of being left alone once more. This fear did not manifest as sorrow. It mutated into a venomous, consuming rage. She began to blame Pamela for every failure in her own life, projecting her deep-seated insecurities onto the very person who had tried to offer her solace. On the 16th of September, 1988, Pamela vanished. Almost 2 weeks later, the silence of the forest was broken by a horrific discovery at a local gathering spot. The details of the scene were a grim testament to the cruelty of the act. Pamela had been taken from the world in a manner utterly devoid of humanity, her remains subjected to the ravages of fire and the elements. For her family, the heartbreak was absolute and paralyzing. Yet, even in the face of such profound grief, the resilience of the Pitts family began to shine through. They refused to let the darkness of the act extinguish the beautiful memory of their daughter, embarking on a grueling journey for justice that would span decades. The investigation encountered countless hurdles. The scientific tools of the era were limited, and the rural landscape offered few concrete answers. False rumors of ritualistic activities clouded the truth, an unfortunate reality when a community attempts to make sense of the senseless. As years passed, the trail grew cold, but the quiet determination of the investigators never wavered. Then, in the spring of 1991, the pattern of possessive violence tragically repeated itself. Ray Clerks, a 24-year-old man with dreams of taking to the skies as a commercial pilot, vanished. Ray was a young man of immense responsibility, deeply connected to a loving family that prized discipline and ambition. He had been sharing his life with Shelley, but recognizing the destructive nature of their bond, he planned to move away and build a life independently. Once again, faced with the prospect of abandonment, Shelley's fragile psyche fractured. Ray was later found in a remote mine shaft, having been fatally wounded. The discovery of Ray shattered the remaining illusions surrounding Shelley. Physical evidence linked her inextricably to his demise. In 1993, she accepted a plea arrangement, resulting in a 20-year sentence in the state penitentiary. For the family of Pamela Pitts, this brought a measure of relief, knowing that the woman they suspected of taking their beloved daughter was no longer a threat to the community. However, the hunger for complete justice remained unfulfilled. It is here that we witness the true resilience of the human spirit, the unwavering commitment of the law enforcement officers who, after more than 2 decades, refused to let Pamela be forgotten. In 2011, a renewed effort began. Detectives meticulously reviewed the case, waiting patiently for Shelley to reveal her darkest secrets. The breakthrough arrived years later, in 2017, following Shelley's release from prison. An exhaustive review of 97 recorded prison telephone conversations uncovered a veiled but damning admission to her father regarding Pamela's fate. In the spring of 2021, 33 years after Pamela's laughter was silenced, Shelley finally stood before a court and confessed. She admitted that a confrontation, born of her desperate anger and uncontrollable fear of abandonment, had escalated into a fatal assault. Though the legal resolution, a sentence considered fulfilled by her previous time served, left many yearning for a heavier consequence. The ultimate truth had finally been dragged into the light. As an observer who reveres truth and community, I see in this harrowing saga a profound lesson about the human condition. It serves as a somber educational warning about the destructive power of unhealed psychological wounds and the danger of living devoid of emotional balance. But more importantly, it is a testament to the unyielding strength of those left behind. The families of Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerks navigated an unimaginable abyss of sorrow, yet they maintained their dignity, their solidarity, and their boundless love for the children they lost. We must remember Pamela not for the tragic wilderness where she was found, but as the fiery, loving sister who guided her siblings. We must remember Ray for his ambitious gaze toward the clouds, not the dark earth where he was concealed. In honoring their memories, we embrace the most beautiful aspects of our shared humanity, the enduring power of love, the pursuit of truth, and the remarkable resilience of community that simply refuses to be broken by the dark. In the heart of French culture lies a profound reverence for balance, a concept we deeply cherish as the art of living well. It is a philosophy that honors a harmony between humanity and nature, the quiet strength found in community solidarity, and the profound contentment of knowing one is never truly alone. We build our societies on the pillars of fraternity and mutual care, understanding that a rooted soul is a resilient soul. Yet, as a journalist looking across the ocean to the vast, arid landscapes of Prescott, Arizona, in the United States, one cannot help but observe the tragic devastation that unfolds when this essential human balance is shattered by isolation, fear, and profound psychological fracture. This is the harrowing story of Pamela Pitts and Ray Clerks, two vibrant souls whose lives were extinguished by a darkness that festered in the absence of community and emotional equilibrium. It is a narrative that demands not only a recounting of the facts, but a deep, empathetic examination of the human mind, honoring the resilience of those left behind who seek justice through the darkest of times. The tragedy began to unfold on the evening of September 29, 1988. The Prescott National Forest, a sprawling natural reserve typically known for providing endless recreational harmony to the local residents, became the site of a grim discovery. A citizen, concluding a peaceful day in nature, stumbled upon a fire pit known locally as Gordo Pit. Amidst the ashes and discarded remnants, he noticed what he initially believed to be a branch. Upon closer inspection, the horrifying reality set in. It was a human limb. The citizen immediately fled to a nearby pharmacy to contact emergency services, bringing the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office into the desolate wilderness. The scene was one of unfathomable cruelty. The victim had been subjected to a level of violence that sought not just to end a life, but to completely erase an identity. The remains were burned beyond recognition, buried under debris in a manner that was both brutal and deeply demeaning. In those days, prior to the advent of modern genetic material testing, investigators were left grappling in the shadows. The medical examiner could confidently label the death as a homicide, noting the presence of heat-kill fly larvae which indicated the victim had been deceased for a period of time before the fire was set. However, the exact cause of death remained a mystery hidden within the ashes. Through the meticulous comparison of dental records, the authorities finally restored the name to the victim. She was Pamela Pitts, a 19-year-old girl who had been reported missing by her terrified family 13 days prior, on September 16, 1988. To understand the magnitude of this loss, one must look deeply into the spirit of Pamela. She was the eldest of 4 siblings, a young woman described by her father, Paul, as a beacon of light. She possessed a radiant smile, an infectious zest for life, and a nurturing soul that guided her younger siblings. Pamela embodied the very joy of living we so value. She was artistic, dreamed of attending beauty college, and was eager to carve out her place in the world. Her inner life was characterized by a trusting openness and a deep reliance on her family ties. In stark contrast stood her roommate, 18-year-old Shelley Norgard. If Pamela was rooted in love, Shelley was adrift in an ocean of perceived abandonment. Psychological analysis of Shelley reveals a young woman deeply scarred by a fractured family dynamic, a stern upbringing, and a maternal absence that left a gaping void in her sense of self. For Shelley, living with Pamela was an opportunity to grasp at the familial connection she so desperately craved. However, this desperate need for attachment soon mutated into a suffocating, toxic possessiveness. When financial strains over rent began to fracture their friendship, Pamela, longing for the peace and balance of her family home, decided it was time to move out. For a healthy mind, a roommate moving out is a normal transition of youth. For Shelley, whose entire psychological architecture was built on a fear of abandonment, Pamela leaving was interpreted as an existential threat. The inner workings of the perpetrator mind here show a catastrophic failure to maintain emotional balance. Shelley could not process rejection. She could only process obliteration. On the night Pamela vanished, Shelley had been seen furiously searching for her, expressing bitter resentment, claiming Pamela was responsible for everything wrong in her life. Furthermore, Shelley had a chilling history of making casual remarks about how to dispose of a human body, specifically mentioning burning remains or utilizing abandoned mine shafts. Despite these glaring psychological red flags, the physical evidence was non-existent. Investigators questioned Shelley and her boyfriend, Ray Clerks, but were met with alibis and a lack of forensic connection. For years, the investigation chased shadows. The tight-knit community, shocked by the disruption of their peace, succumbed to wild rumors of ritualistic sacrifices and satanic cults. A common societal panic during the 1980s when communities struggled to comprehend senseless violence. At one point in 1989, another young woman named Melinda Perry was falsely accused and indicted for perjury based on fabricated rumors of a physical altercation with Pamela, a traumatic ordeal that forced an innocent woman to flee her home state. The case eventually went entirely cold, leaving the Pitts family to navigate their grief alone. Yet they demonstrated an incredible, enduring resilience, refusing to let the memory of their daughter fade into the desert dust. The profound lack of balance in Shelley Norgaard would inevitably demand another toll. On May 25, 1991, college students exploring a cave system connected to a vertical mine shaft made a gruesome discovery. Deep within the earth lay the decomposing body of a young Caucasian male, wrapped securely in a waterbed liner. An autopsy revealed he had been shot directly in the head. Dental records identified the man as 24-year-old Ray Clerks. Ray was an ambitious, responsible young man with dreams of becoming a commercial airline pilot. He came from a tight, loving family, much like Pamela. And much like Pamela, Ray had recently decided to leave Shelley Norgaard. He was planning a move to California, intending to take their shared dogs with him. The pattern of absolute destruction was now undeniable. When investigators searched the vehicle belonging to Shelley, the overwhelming scent of death greeted them. Blood, matching the type of Ray, was discovered in the trunk. The evidence was insurmountable, leading to the arrest of Shelley on June 4, 1991. Faced with a trial in 1993, Shelley accepted a plea agreement. Her confession provided a chilling window into her fragmented psyche. She recounted a night of stargazing, a peaceful activity completely shattered when Ray confirmed his departure. In a moment of absolute possessive rage, she shot him in the head as he lay on the hood of the car. She then callously concealed his body in her trunk for weeks before transporting him to the desolate mine shaft. For this execution, driven by a pathological inability to let go, she was sentenced to 20 years in the state prison. While the Pitts family felt a grim satisfaction that Shelley was incarcerated and unable to harm anyone else, they were acutely aware that justice for Pamela remained elusive. The years stretched on. The original witnesses aged, memories faded, and the physical evidence remained scarce. Yet, the pursuit of truth is a resilient force. In March of 2011, 23 years after the death of Pamela, a dedicated cold case team reopened files. Detectives meticulously reviewed the history, recognizing the undeniable capability for murder that Shelley harbored. Approaching her impending release, investigators strategically interviewed her in prison, applying psychological pressure. They then monitored 97 telephone calls she made. The breakthrough arrived not through a grand confession, but through a tense, guarded conversation between Shelley and her father in 2017. The silence on the line, the shared knowledge of a dark secret, provided the circumstantial momentum the authorities desperately needed. On June 2nd, 2017, shortly after she had rebuilt a new life under the name Shelley Norgaard Harmon, investigators arrived to place her under arrest for the murder of Pamela Pitts. The courtroom battle that followed was arduous, fraught with the challenges of a 30-year-old mystery. Recognizing the fragility of their case, prosecutors presented the Pitts family with a difficult choice: risk a trial with aging witnesses, or accept a plea deal that would guarantee a conviction but result in no additional prison time. Choosing the certainty of truth, the family agreed. On March 1st, 2021, Shelley stood before a judge and finally admitted to her crimes. She confessed to tracking Pamela down on that fateful night in 1988, engaging in a heated dispute that escalated into unimaginable violence. Shelley admitted to repeatedly striking Pamela until the young woman stopped breathing, though she steadfastly refused to detail the subsequent burning and desecration of the body. Because she received credit for the 20 years served for the murder of Ray, alongside the years spent awaiting trial. Shelley walked free from the courthouse at 50 years of age. To the casual observer, the scales of justice might appear forever unbalanced. A woman who systematically annihilated the people who tried to leave her is now walking free. Yet, as we reflect on this tragedy through a lens of human endurance, we must focus our attention not on the darkness of the perpetrator, but on the luminous resilience of the victims and their families. Paul Pitts and his family stood steadfast for over 3 decades. They carried the memory of Pamela, ensuring that her life was not defined merely by its brutal end, but by the joy and light she brought into the world. The family of Ray Clerks continues to honor his ambitious spirit. They demonstrate a quiet, powerful dignity that echoes the very best of human solidarity. In the end, while the legal conclusion may feel incomplete, the moral victory belongs to those who continue to love, remember, and support one another. It is a stark reminder that we must cultivate balance, cherish our communities, and hold tightly to the joy of living, for it is our connections to each other that ultimately protect us from the darkest shadows of the human heart. The tragedy that unfolded in the serene landscapes of Prescott, Arizona, is a stark reminder of the fragile balance between human connection and the perilous depths of the fractured psyche. As a journalist observing this profound sorrow through a lens that deeply values the sanctity of life, community solidarity, and the harmonious relationship between humanity and nature, one cannot help but mourn the profound violation of these ideals. The Prescott National Forest, a verdant sanctuary where residents typically seek solace, fraternity, and the simple joys of existence, was transformed into a theater of unimaginable heartbreak. The story begins in the autumn of 1988, a time when the leaves turn and the promise of a crisp, renewing season hangs in the air. Pamela Pitts, a vibrant 19-year-old woman, embodied a radiant zest for life. She was a beacon of light to her family, a mentor to her younger siblings, and a friend whose innate warmth could disarm the most guarded of souls. Pamela possessed a deep-rooted sense of belonging and familial love, the very foundation of a balanced and fulfilled life. Yet, on the night of September 16, 1988, this bright light was abruptly extinguished. When Pamela vanished, the silence she left behind was deafening. 13 agonizing days later, on September 29th, a local resident seeking the tranquil embrace of the evening stumbled upon a macabre desecration near a communal fire pit. The discovery of Pamela, her physical form subjected to a brutal and profound indignity, shattered the innocence of the small town. The sheer brutality of the act, an attempt to erase her very identity through fire, spoke not merely of violence, but of a deep, consuming hatred. It was an affront not only to the victim, but to the natural world around her, turning a place of gathering into a monument of grief. To understand the darkness that consumed Pamela, one must peer into the troubled soul of the perpetrator, her roommate, Shelley Norgard. Shelley was a young woman adrift, heavily burdened by the ghost of abandonment and a fractured upbringing. Unlike Pamela, who was anchored by the unwavering love of her family, Shelley navigated the world with a perilous emptiness. Psychological analysis suggests that for individuals suffering from such profound attachment wounds, the prospect of losing a stabilizing figure can trigger a catastrophic unraveling. When Pamela, seeking her own independence and growth, made the natural decision to move out and return to the warmth of her family home, she inadvertently threatened the fragile reality Shelley had constructed. The tragedy of Shelley is a tragedy of a spirit so starved of genuine affection that it morphed into possessive rage. In her mind, Pamela was not just leaving a shared apartment. She was taking away Shelley's tether to stability. The fatal confrontation was born of a desperate, violent compulsion to control what she could not bear to lose. The investigation into Pamela's death languished in the shadows of uncertainty for years. The community, grappling with the trauma, spun tales of cults and dark rituals, a collective psychological defense mechanism to make sense of a senseless act. Yet, the truth was far more intimate and human. The wheels of justice, though agonizingly slow, never halted. Sustained by the relentless dedication of local investigators and the enduring resilience of Pamela's family. Their dignified patience in the face of profound sorrow is a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. Tragically, the depths of Shelley Norgard's psychological abyss would claim another innocent life before the truth was brought to light. In May of 1991, the community was struck by a second wave of grief when Ray Clerks, a responsible and ambitious 24-year-old man with dreams of taking to the skies as a pilot, disappeared. His remains were discovered weeks later in a vertical mine shaft, a victim of a fatal gunshot. Once again, the motive was rooted in the terror of abandonment. Ray, seeking to forge his own path and end his relationship with Shelley, became the target of her ultimate, fatal possessiveness. Shelley's confession to Ray's murder revealed a chilling detachment. She had ended his life while they were stargazing, a moment that should inspire awe and humility before the universe, perverted into a final act of control. Shelley served 20 years for the murder of Ray Clerks, a period of incarceration that offered some measure of physical safety to the public, yet left the agonizing question of Pamela's fate unresolved. It was not until 2017, after painstaking reviews of 97 recorded prison conversations, that detectives found a fragile thread needed to unravel the decades-old mystery. A seemingly veiled admission of guilt provided the leverage needed to finally charge her with the murder of Pamela Pitts. In the spring of 2021, nearly 33 years after Pamela's vibrant life was stolen, Shelley stood before a court of law and offered a fraction of the truth. She admitted